Welcome back to Nocturnal Notions. Tonight, we're leaving the present behind. Imagine the world before maps were complete, before history was written by the winners, before explanations were neat and certain. A time when stone was shaped without machines, when symbols were carved with purpose, and when knowledge was passed quietly, hand to hand, generation to generation. As you settle in, picture a torchlit chamber deep underground. The air is still. The walls are marked with symbols whose meanings have faded, but not disappeared. They remain, waiting to be noticed again. Throughout history, our ancestors left behind questions instead of answers. Monuments that shouldn't exist where they do. Artifacts that appear out of place in time. Structures built with precision we're still trying to understand. Tonight, we're not here to solve these mysteries. We're simply going to observe them, calmly, patiently, the way time itself does. Let your thoughts slow as we explore ancient facts, unresolved puzzles, and quiet anomalies, stories that invite curiosity without demanding belief. Get comfortable. Let the past drift gently into view. And allow these ancient mysteries to carry you peacefully toward sleep. Gobekli Tepe, the 12,000-year-old site that changed history. In the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey lies a discovery so profound that it forced archaeologists to rewrite everything they thought they knew about early human civilization. Gobekli Tepe, which translates to Potbelly Hill, is a temple complex that dates back approximately 12,000 years, making it older than Stonehenge by about 6,000 years and predating the Egyptian pyramids by roughly 7,000 years. What makes Gobekli Tepe truly remarkable is that it was built by hunter-gatherers, people we once believed were too primitive to construct monumental architecture. The site consists of massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in circular formations. These pillars are decorated with intricate carvings of animals: foxes, lions, scorpions, vultures, and snakes, all rendered with surprising artistic skill. For decades, archaeologists believed that agriculture came first, then settlements, and only after that did humans have the time and resources to build temples and create art. Gobekli Tepe turned this understanding completely upside down. Here was proof that organized religion and monumental construction came before farming, before pottery, before the wheel. Perhaps it was the desire to gather for ritual and ceremony that actually led humans to develop agriculture, not the other way around. The site was deliberately buried around 8000 BCE, filled in with soil by the very people who built it. Why would anyone bury such a magnificent temple? This question remains unanswered, adding yet another layer of mystery to this already enigmatic place. As you drift off tonight, imagine those ancient people gathering under the stars, carving stone with stone tools, creating something meant to last forever. Indus Valley Civilization's collapse. A vanished ancient world. Around 4,500 years ago, in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, one of the world's most advanced civilizations thrived along the Indus River. The Indus Valley Civilization, also known as the Harappan Civilization, was home to perhaps 5 million people at its peak. They built sophisticated cities with remarkable urban planning, straight streets laid out in perfect grid patterns, advanced drainage systems, public baths, and standardized weights and measures. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa featured multi-story buildings made of uniform baked bricks. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, a large public bathing pool, demonstrates their engineering prowess and suggests ritual cleansing may have been important to their culture. They traded with Mesopotamia, created beautiful jewelry and pottery, and developed a writing system that, frustratingly, remains undeciphered to this day. Then, around 1900 BCE, this entire civilization began to decline. By 1300 BCE, most of the great cities were abandoned. But here's the mystery: We don't really know why. There are no signs of warfare, no evidence of invasion, no burned cities or mass graves. The people simply left. Theories abound. Some researchers believe that climate change caused the monsoon patterns to shift, leading to drought and the drying up of rivers. Others suggest that tectonic activity may have altered the course of rivers, making agriculture impossible. There's also evidence that diseases may have played a role. Whatever the cause, an entire civilization, one of the most advanced of its time, vanished from history, leaving behind empty cities and countless unanswered questions. Let this mystery settle over you like a warm blanket as you relax deeper into rest. Lost civilization of Doggerland, Europe's Atlantis. Beneath the cold waters of the North Sea lies a lost world, a vast landscape that once connected Britain to continental Europe. This is Doggerland, sometimes called Europe's Atlantis, though unlike the mythical island, we know for certain that Doggerland existed. During the last ice age, so much water was locked up in glacier that sea levels were much lower than today. What is now underwater was then a vast plain, covering an area roughly the size of modern-day England. This land was home to hills, rivers, marshlands, and forests. And it was teeming with life: mammoths, woolly rhinoceros, deer, wild horses, and the humans who hunted them. Archaeological evidence, dredged up by fishing boats and revealed through underwater surveys, shows that Doggerland was inhabited for thousands of years. People lived here, following herds of animals, fishing in its rivers, and creating communities across this landscape. It was likely one of the most populated areas of Europe during the Mesolithic period, around 10,000 to 6,000 years ago. But as the glacier melted and sea levels rose, Doggerland began to shrink. The process was gradual, taking thousands of years, but it was inexorable. Imagine generations of people slowly watching their world diminish, the sea claiming more land with each passing lifetime. Around 6500 BCE, a massive underwater landslide off the coast of Norway, known as the Storegga Slide, triggered a devastating tsunami. This catastrophic event may have delivered the final blow to Doggerland, submerging what remained and forever separating Britain from Europe. Today, fishermen occasionally pull up ancient tools, bones, and even worked wood from the North Sea floor, brief glimpses of a lost world. As you close your eyes, picture this drowned landscape, its secrets preserved in the cold, dark waters, a reminder that even the land beneath our feet is temporary. Vanishing of the Clovis people, a lost American civilization. Around 13,000 years ago, a distinctive group of people lived across North America. We call them the Clovis people, named after the town in New Mexico where their characteristic spear points were first discovered. These weren't crude stone tools. Clovis points were masterfully crafted, featuring a distinctive fluted design that made them highly effective for hunting. The Clovis people were North America's first widespread culture, their distinctive tools found from Alaska to Central America. They were skilled hunters who pursued the massive animals of the Ice Age: mammoths, mastodons, giant bison, and ground sloths. For about 500 years, Clovis culture dominated the continent. Then, around 12,600 years ago, the Clovis culture suddenly disappeared. Their distinctive spear points stopped appearing in the archaeological record. What happened? The mystery has puzzled scientists for decades, and several competing theories have emerged. The most widely accepted explanation involves climate change. Around this time, the Younger Dryas period began, a sudden return to Ice Age conditions that lasted over 1,000 years. The megafauna that the Clovis people depended on went extinct, possibly due to this climate shift, overhunting, or both. Without their primary food sources, the Clovis culture could not sustain itself. Some researchers have proposed a more dramatic scenario: a comet or asteroid impact that triggered the Younger Dryas cooling, caused widespread fires, and contributed to the megafaunal extinctions. While evidence for this impact hypothesis remains controversial, it captures the imagination. What we know for certain is that after the Clovis culture ended, the people didn't vanish. They adapted, diversified, and became the many distinct cultures that would inhabit the Americas for millennia to come. Let yourself drift now, thinking of these ancient hunters following herds across pristine landscapes under endless skies. Lost City of Aztlan, the forgotten homeland of the Aztecs. Every civilization has an origin story, a place where their people began. For the Aztecs, that place was Aztlan, meaning place of whiteness or place of herons. According to Aztec legend, their ancestors left Aztlan sometime in the 12th or 13th century, guided by their god Huitzilopochtli on a long migration that would eventually lead them to found Tenochtitlan, the magnificent capital that stood where Mexico City stands today. But where was Aztlan? This question has fascinated historians and archaeologists for centuries. The Aztecs themselves described it as an island in a lake, a place of abundance where their people lived before their great journey. Some Spanish chroniclers, recording Aztec oral traditions after the conquest, wrote detailed descriptions of this homeland, but they couldn't pinpoint its location. Theories about Aztlan's location range across a vast area. Some researchers believe it was in northern Mexico, perhaps in the modern states of Sinaloa or Nayarit. Others argue it was much farther north, possibly in what is now the southwestern United States. A few scholars have even suggested that Aztlan is purely mythological, a symbolic rather than literal place, similar to how the Garden of Eden functions in Western tradition. What makes the search for Aztlan so compelling is that the Aztecs themselves seemed uncertain about its exact location by the time the Spanish arrived. Centuries had passed since the migration, and the memory had faded into legend. Some Aztec rulers reportedly sent expeditions to find their ancestral homeland, though whether they succeeded remains unknown. Perhaps Aztlan was a real place that has been lost to time, its ruins yet to be discovered or long ago destroyed by the elements. Or perhaps it exists only in the realm of myth, a cultural memory that served to unite the Aztec people with a shared sense of origin and destiny. Either way, the mystery of Aztlan reminds us that some questions may never be answered, and that's okay. Rest now, and let the search for this lost homeland fade into your dreams. Brazilian Atlantis, Ratanaba, the lost civilization in the Amazon. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, legends persist of an ancient, advanced civilization that once flourished and then vanished without a trace. Some call it the Brazilian Atlantis, and in recent years, it's been associated with the name Ratanaba, though the origins of this name and the stories surrounding it are somewhat unclear and controversial. For centuries, the Amazon was thought to be a pristine wilderness, largely untouched by human hands except for small, scattered tribes. But modern archaeology, aided by satellite technology and lidar scanning that can see through the forest canopy, has revealed something astonishing. The Amazon was once home to large, organized settlements. Researchers have discovered vast earthworks, geometric patterns carved into the earth, and evidence of sophisticated agricultural practices. These geoglyphs, massive shapes visible only from above, suggest a level of social organization and population density that was previously thought impossible in the rainforest environment. Some estimates suggest that up to 10 million people may have lived in the Amazon basin before European contact. The theories around a Brazilian Atlantis suggest that a particularly advanced civilization, with sophisticated knowledge of agriculture, engineering, and perhaps astronomy, existed in the Amazon and then collapsed, possibly due to disease introduced by European contact or environmental changes. The jungle quickly reclaimed their cities, leaving only mysterious earthworks and scattered artifacts. While the more sensational claims about Ratanaba lack solid archaeological evidence and veer into speculation, the broader truth is fascinating enough. The Amazon was not an untouched wilderness but a landscape actively managed and shaped by large populations for thousands of years. Their knowledge, particularly of sustainable agriculture and forest management, could hold valuable lessons for us today. As you settle deeper into relaxation, imagine the green cathedral of the rainforest, centuries of growth concealing secrets beneath its emerald canopy, waiting patiently to be understood. Paracas elongated skulls, Peru's anomalous human remains. On the arid coast of Peru, in the Paracas region, archaeologists have discovered something that immediately captures attention: hundreds of human skulls with dramatically elongated shapes. These aren't just slightly unusual, some are 25% larger and 60% heavier than typical human skulls, with a distinctly different shape that almost seems alien. The Paracas culture flourished between about 800 BCE and 100 BCE, and their burial practices have preserved these remarkable skulls for us to study. The question that immediately arises is, how did these skulls become this shape? And perhaps more importantly, why? The most widely accepted explanation is artificial cranial deformation, a practice found in many ancient cultures around the world. From infancy, boards or bindings would be wrapped around a child's head, gradually reshaping the soft, growing skull over several years. This practice was typically a marker of status or cultural identity, distinguishing certain families or social classes from others. However, some researchers have noted that the Paracas skulls show certain unusual characteristics. While most artificially deformed skulls maintain the same volume as normal skulls, just redistributed into a different shape, some Paracas skulls appear to have greater cranial capacity. Additionally, some skulls seem to lack certain suture lines that typically appear in human skulls, though this observation remains controversial and disputed. DNA analysis has been conducted on some of these skulls, revealing genetic markers that trace back to European and Middle Eastern populations, which is surprising but not inexplicable. It suggests complex ancient migration patterns and genetic mixing that we're only beginning to understand. The truth is likely more mundane than alien visitors or unknown human subspecies. These were people, members of the Paracas culture, who practiced intentional head shaping for reasons that made sense within their cultural context. But the mystery of why they chose such extreme modifications, and what these elongated heads meant to them, remains a fascinating puzzle. Let this mystery cradle you as you drift toward sleep. Giant of Castelnau, the discovery of an ancient giant. In 1890, in the small French village of Castelnau, anthropologists made a remarkable discovery that would fuel debates for over a century. During excavations of a Bronze Age cemetery, they uncovered bone fragments of exceptional size, femurs, tibias, and other skeletal remains that suggested a human of extraordinary height. Based on the proportions of these bones, scientists estimated that this individual would have stood approximately 11 to 12 feet tall. The bones were examined by several anatomists of the time, including Professor Mornanden, who confirmed they appeared to be human rather than belonging to another species. The fossils were dated to the Bronze Age, roughly 3,000 to 4,000 years old. If accurate, this would be truly extraordinary. The tallest person in modern recorded history, Robert Wadlow, reached 8 feet 11 inches, and his excessive height was caused by a pituitary gland disorder that unfortunately led to his early death at age 22. For a person to reach 11 or 12 feet and survive long enough to be buried properly in a cemetery seems almost impossible from a medical perspective. So what's the truth? Unfortunately, the original bones from Castelnau have been lost, making modern analysis impossible. Some researchers suggest the measurements were simply errors or exaggerations, not uncommon in 19th century archaeology. Others propose the bones belonged to someone with severe acromegaly or gigantism, but that the height estimates were dramatically overblown. There's also speculation, though lacking evidence, that the bones belonged to another species entirely, or that they were misidentified animal bones. Without the original specimens, we may never know for certain. The giant of Castelnau remains a tantalizing mystery, existing in that uncertain space between legend and archaeological fact. Throughout history, cultures around the world have told stories of giants, from the Nephilim in the Bible to the Titans in Greek mythology. Perhaps these stories contain echoes of real people who were simply exceptionally tall for their time, their memory growing with each retelling. Rest now, and let this ancient mystery fade into the background of your thoughts. Unfinished Obelisk of Aswan, the abandoned monument. In the ancient granite quarries of Aswan, Egypt, lies one of archaeology's most instructive mysteries, a massive obelisk that was never completed. This isn't a small project abandoned due to lack of interest. Had it been finished, this single piece of stone would have been the largest obelisk ever erected, standing approximately 137 feet tall and weighing over 1,000 tons. The ancient Egyptians were master stone workers, famous for their pyramids, temples, and, of course, obelisks. These tall, four-sided monuments with pyramid-shaped tops were sacred to the sun god Ra. Egyptian workers would cut these enormous pieces of granite directly from the bedrock, a process that required incredible skill, patience, and organization. The unfinished obelisk shows us exactly how they did it. Workers carved trenches around the obelisk, slowly separating it from the bedrock using stone tools and possibly copper implements. They would pound the granite with dolerite balls, extremely hard stones that could pulverize the granite beneath. It was slow, methodical, backbreaking work. But then disaster struck. A crack appeared in the granite, running through the obelisk. In that moment, months or perhaps years of work became useless. The flaw made the stone unsuitable for such a massive monument. It would be too weak, at risk of breaking under its own weight. The project was abandoned, and the obelisk was left exactly as you see it today, still partially attached to the bedrock, a frozen moment in time. This abandoned project is actually a gift to archaeologists and historians. It shows the ancient techniques in a way that finished monuments cannot. We can see the tool marks, understand the process, and appreciate the enormous amount of labor involved in creating these monuments. The unfinished obelisk reminds us that ancient peoples faced the same frustrations we do. Projects that don't work out, flaws discovered too late, effort that seems wasted. They were human, just like us. As you relax into sleep, imagine the ancient workers discovering that crack, their disappointment, their decision to walk away and start fresh somewhere else. Iron Pillar of Delhi, a rust-proof mystery of ancient engineering. Standing in the courtyard of the Quwwatul Islam Mosque in Delhi, India, is a pillar that has puzzled metallurgists for centuries. The Iron Pillar of Delhi stands about 23 feet tall, weighs approximately 6 tons, and was erected around 400 CE during the Gupta Empire. What makes it remarkable? Despite being made of iron and standing exposed to the elements for over 1,600 years, it has barely rusted. Iron rusts. This is a fundamental truth anyone who's owned a bike or car understands. When iron is exposed to oxygen and moisture, it oxidizes, forming iron oxide, rust. This process is relentless and destructive. Modern iron structures require constant maintenance, protective coatings, and still eventually succumb to corrosion. Yet here stands an iron pillar, 16 centuries old, with only minimal rust in a few spots. For years, this was considered one of the great mysteries of ancient technology. How did ancient Indian metallurgists create rust-resistant iron that modern science couldn't replicate? Theories ranged from the reasonable to the fantastical, with some suggesting lost ancient knowledge or even extraterrestrial technology. Modern analysis has revealed the truth, and while less fantastical than some theories, it's no less impressive. The pillar's rust resistance comes from several factors working together. First, the iron has an unusually high phosphorus content, a quirk of the ore used and the smelting process employed. This phosphorus forms a protective layer on the surface. Second, the dry climate of Delhi means less moisture to drive oxidation. Third, the pillar's surface developed a thin layer of mica-white, a compound of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen that creates a protective barrier. The ancient metallurgists probably didn't fully understand the chemistry, but through experience and skill, they created something that would last millennia. The iron pillar stands as a testament to ancient craftsmanship and the ingenuity of people working with the materials and knowledge available to them. An inscription on the pillar credits its creation to King Chandragupta II, and it likely originally stood before a Vishnu temple, serving as a flagstaff. Now it serves a different purpose, reminding us that ancient peoples were capable of remarkable achievements, and that sometimes, through a combination of skill, materials, and favorable conditions, they created things that outlast civilizations themselves. As this first segment of mysteries comes to a close, let these ancient wonders settle in your mind. Each of these places, objects, and peoples left questions behind, some answered, some forever mysterious. Let them accompany you now into peaceful rest, your thoughts drifting like wind over ancient ruins, gentle and calm. Sleep well. Kailasa Temple, the megastructure carved from a mountain. In the Ellora Caves of Maharashtra, India, stands what may be the most audacious architectural achievement in human history. The Kailasa Temple isn't built, it's carved. The entire structure was excavated from a single piece of solid basalt rock, cut from the top down, removing an estimated 400,000 tons of stone to create a temple that towers over 100 feet high. Imagine the planning required for such a project. Unlike traditional construction where you can correct mistakes or add components, carving from a single rock means one error could be catastrophic. There's no adding more stone if you remove too much. Every column, every statue, every intricate relief had to be visualized completely before the first cut was made. The temple was created in the 8th century CE, commissioned by King Krishna I of the Rashtrakuta dynasty. It's dedicated to Lord Shiva and designed to represent Mount Kailash, Shiva's legendary home in the Himalayas. The complex includes a main temple, a courtyard surrounded by galleries, several subsidiary shrines, and sculptures of elephants, lions, and deities, all carved from the living rock. The precision is astounding. Pillars stand perfectly vertical. Walls meet at exact angles. The structure has survived over 1,200 years of monsoons, earthquakes, and the weight of its own stone. Some researchers estimate it would have taken 150 years to complete such work. Others suggest that with a large enough workforce, perhaps 7,000 laborers, it could have been accomplished in as little as 18 years. What tools did they use? Primarily hammers, chisels, and picks. No explosives, no power tools, no cranes. Just human hands, simple tools, and extraordinary determination. Some legends claim it was built in a single night by supernatural beings, which gives you an idea of how impossible this achievement seemed even to people living shortly after its completion. Standing before the Kailasa Temple, you're confronted with a profound question, not whether ancient people could accomplish such feats, clearly they could, but what drove them to attempt something so ambitious? What faith, what vision, what aspect of human nature compels us to dream bigger than seems possible? Let this question drift through your mind as you relax deeper into comfort. Sacsayhuaman walls, Inca stones interlocked without mortar. High above the city of Cusco, Peru, overlooking the ancient Inca capital, stand walls that seem to defy explanation. The fortress complex of Sacsayhuaman features massive stones, some weighing over 100 tons, fitted together so precisely that not even a knife blade can slip between them. No mortar holds these stones together, Yet they've stood firm through centuries of earthquakes in one of the world's most seismically active regions. The stones aren't uniform blocks. They are irregular, polygonal shapes with multiple angles, yet they interlock perfectly with their neighbors like a three-dimensional puzzle. Some stones have as many as 12 angles, each one fitting seamlessly against an adjacent stone. How did the Inca achieve this precision? The Inca had no iron tools, no wheeled vehicles, and no written language to record their engineering techniques. They worked with bronze and stone tools, yet they shaped these massive pieces of andesite and limestone with extraordinary accuracy. Some stones were quarried from sites over 20 miles away and transported across mountains and valleys. Theories about their construction methods vary. The most accepted explanation involves a labor-intensive process of repeatedly placing and removing stones, grinding the contact points to achieve a perfect fit. Workers would place a stone, mark where it touched its neighbor, remove it, grind down the high points, and repeat this process countless times until the fit was perfect. Some researchers have suggested the Inca may have used wooden frames and levers, slowly working the massive stones into position. Others propose they carved recesses in the stones and used those for grip points. There's evidence they may have used ramps made of earth and stone, gradually raising massive blocks to the heights needed. But here's what captures the imagination. The Inca didn't just create functional walls. These are works of art. The stones flow together like liquid somehow frozen in time. Run your hand along these walls, and you feel the care put into every surface. This wasn't just engineering, it was a form of worship, a way of honoring the earth itself by working with stone so masterfully. The fortress complex served multiple purposes: military stronghold, religious site, and demonstration of Inca power and sophistication. The Spanish conquistadors, upon seeing Sacsayhuaman, believed it must have been built by demons, because they couldn't conceive of humans accomplishing such work. Today, when earthquakes shake Cusco, modern buildings with mortar and steel reinforcements suffer damage, while the ancient Inca walls remain standing, their stones actually moving slightly during tremors and then settling back into place. Perhaps the Inca understood seismic engineering better than we give them credit for. Let the image of these perfectly fitted stones cradle your thoughts as you drift toward sleep. Pumapunku, Bolivia's precision-cut megaliths. On the high plains of Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca at an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet, lies a site that has become synonymous with ancient mysteries, Pumapunku. Part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, Pumapunku features stone blocks cut with such precision that they've become a focal point for debates about ancient technology. The site dates to approximately 536 CE, though some of its elements may be older. What remains today is fragmentary, scattered stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, many featuring intricate cuts and perfectly flat surfaces. Some blocks have H-shaped grooves cut into them with astonishing accuracy. Others feature perfectly straight channels and precise right angles that look almost machine-made. The stones are made of andesite and red sandstone. Andesite is extremely hard, rating 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. You can't scratch it with a steel knife. Yet someone created blocks with surfaces so flat and smooth that when placed together, they form joints of incredible precision, measured in the fractions of millimeters. How? This is where the mystery deepens and speculation begins. The Tiwanaku people had copper and bronze tools, which are softer than andesite. Conventional archaeology suggests they used harder stones as tools, combined with sand as an abrasive, slowly grinding the softer sandstone blocks and pecking away at the harder andesite. For the hardest work, they may have used specialized tools made from quartzite or other extremely hard stones. The precision grooves could have been created using strings coated with abrasive sand, drawn back and forth thousands of times like a very slow stone saw. The flat surfaces might have been achieved through patient grinding, checking flatness by laying blocks together and marking high points to grind down. But the sheer precision has led some to wonder, could they have had knowledge or techniques we don't understand? Some researchers have noted that certain cuts seem to show evidence of precision that would be difficult even with modern tools. Others remain skeptical, pointing out that given enough time, patience, and skilled labor, ancient peoples could achieve remarkable precision. What we know for certain is that Pumapunku was part of a significant ceremonial complex. The scattered stones we see today were once part of a grand structure, possibly a temple platform. An earthquake, subsequent looting for building materials, and the passage of time have reduced it to ruins, making it even harder to understand its original form and purpose. The site gets its name from the Aymara language. Pumapunku means door of the puma. What doors were these stones meant to represent? What ceremonies took place here at this high altitude, beneath the vast Andean sky? These questions remain largely unanswered, lost with the civilization that created this place. Rest now, and let the mystery of these precision-cut stones settle into the background of your consciousness. Baalbek megaliths, the impossible stone blocks. In eastern Lebanon, in the Bekaa Valley, stand the ruins of Baalbek, home to some of the largest worked stone blocks ever used in construction. The Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek contains stones so massive that modern engineers struggle to explain how they were moved and placed. The most famous of these are the trilithon, 3 enormous stones that form part of the temple's foundation wall. Each of these blocks weighs approximately 800 tons and measures roughly 65 feet long by 14 feet high by 12 feet wide. They were quarried from a site about a quarter-mile away and somehow transported and lifted into position, roughly 20 feet above ground level. But that's not all. Still in the quarry lies the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a single block weighing approximately 1,000 tons. Nearby is an even larger stone, recently discovered and studied, weighing an estimated 1,650 tons, making it the largest worked stone block in the world. To put this in perspective, the blocks in the Great Pyramid of Giza weigh about 2.5 tons on average, with the heaviest reaching perhaps 80 tons. The Baalbek stones are in an entirely different category. Modern heavy-lift cranes can handle loads up to about 20,000 tons, but they are massive machines with complex engineering. What technology did ancient builders use? The site has Roman origins. The temples were built during the Roman Empire when Baalbek was known as Heliopolis. However, the megalithic foundation stones may predate Roman construction, leading to speculation about who first built at this site. Some researchers suggest the foundation could be Phoenician or even older. The Romans were master engineers, but moving 800-ton stones would have been extraordinary even for them. Theories suggest they may have used wooden rollers, massive teams of workers, and inclined ramps. The stones could have been slowly rolled on logs, with teams of potentially thousands of workers pulling and pushing. The process would have been painstakingly slow, perhaps moving only a few feet per day. Some researchers have proposed that the stones were transported during winter when water could be used to create ice paths, making the massive blocks easier to slide. Others suggest sophisticated lever systems and counterweights. The truth is, we're not entirely certain. The Romans left extensive records of their construction projects, but specific details about moving the Baalbek stones have not survived, if they were ever written down. What drove them to use stones this large? Smaller stones would have been far easier to work with. Perhaps it was a demonstration of power, a way of showing Roman engineering superiority. Or maybe there were practical reasons we don't fully understand, possibly seismic considerations in an earthquake-prone region. Standing before these stones, you feel small, humbled by the ambition of ancient builders. They accomplished something that would be challenging even today, and they did it with muscle, ingenuity, and unwavering determination. Let this image of massive stones, hewn from the earth and shaped by human hands, accompany you into peaceful rest. Karnak stones, France's enormous megalith alignment. In the Brittany region of northwestern France, stretching across fields and disappearing into woods, stand over 3,000 standing stones arranged in mysterious alignments. The Karnak stones, erected between 4500 and 3300 BCE during the Neolithic period, form one of the world's most impressive megalithic sites. The stones are arranged primarily in several distinct groups of alignments, rows of stones running roughly parallel to each other for distances of up to a mile. The stones vary in size, with some standing over 12 feet tall and weighing several tons, while others are smaller, almost modest by comparison. Generally, the stones are taller at the western end of the alignments and gradually decrease in height toward the east. What were they for? This question has puzzled researchers for centuries, and honest truth is, we don't know for certain. The people who erected these stones left no written records, and the site's original purpose has been lost to time. But there are theories. Some researchers believe the alignments had astronomical significance, possibly marking solar or lunar events. The orientation of some stone rows seems to align with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset. This would suggest the site served as a massive calendar or observatory, helping Neolithic people track the seasons for agricultural purposes. Others propose the stones had religious or ceremonial significance. Perhaps they marked processional routes for rituals we can no longer comprehend. The effort required to erect thousands of stones suggests the site held profound importance to the communities that created it. There's also evidence that the area around the stones contains numerous burial mounds and tombs, suggesting a connection to death rituals or ancestor worship. The stones might have marked sacred ground or served as monuments to the dead. Archaeological studies have revealed that creating these alignments required sophisticated social organization. Quarrying, transporting, and erecting these stones would have demanded large groups of workers, considerable time, and coordination across multiple communities. This suggests a relatively advanced Neolithic society, capable of mobilizing resources for non-essential projects, meaning they had surplus food and time beyond mere survival. What's particularly haunting about Karnak is its scale. This wasn't a single temple or monument. It's an entire landscape transformed, thousands of stones arranged according to some plan we can no longer fully understand. Walking among these stones, especially early in the morning when mist clings to the ground, you feel the weight of millennia, the presence of countless people who stood where you stand, who saw these same stones. Many of the stones have been altered over the centuries. Some were destroyed or moved by farmers clearing land. Others have been re-erected by archaeologists attempting to restore the site. In the 1990s, portions of the site were fenced off to protect them from erosion caused by the millions of visitors who came to see them. The mystery of Karnak reminds us that the past contains vast amounts of human experience that we can never fully recover. People lived, loved, worked, worshipped, and died here, and the stones are all that remain to testify to their existence. Let these ancient stones stand guard over your sleep tonight, silent witnesses to the passage of time. Uffington White Horse, the ancient symbol no one understands. Carved into the green hills of Oxfordshire, England, stretching 360 feet in length, is one of Britain's most enigmatic ancient images, the Uffington White Horse. This massive figure, created by cutting through turf to expose the brilliant white chalk beneath, has stood on Dragon Hill for at least 3,000 years, possibly much longer. What makes the White Horse remarkable is its style. It's not a realistic depiction of a horse but rather an abstract, flowing design that almost seems modern in its simplicity. The horse consists of graceful, continuous curves, a body, neck, head, and legs suggested with minimal lines. Some observers have argued it doesn't even look much like a horse. It's so stylized that its interpretation is open to debate. Dating the figure has proven challenging. The current consensus, based on optical stimulated luminescence dating of the soil layers, places its creation around 1000 BCE during the Bronze Age. However, the figure has required regular maintenance throughout its existence. The chalk must be periodically re-exposed or vegetation will cover it. This continuous maintenance means the horse we see today may not be exactly as it was originally created. Small changes over generations of caretakers might have altered its form. Why was it created? Again, we face a mystery. Its location on the steep slope of White Horse Hill means it's difficult to see clearly from ground level. You need distance to appreciate the full image, which has led researchers to suggest it was created to be seen from afar or perhaps even as an offering to sky deities. Some historians connect it to local legends of dragon slaying. Dragon Hill, just below the White Horse, has a flat top with a bare chalk patch where, according to legend, no grass grows because dragon's blood was spilled there. Could the White Horse commemorate some ancient story now lost to time? Others suggest it had territorial significance, marking the lands of a particular tribe or kingdom. The effort required to create and maintain such a figure suggests it held important meaning for the communities living in the area. There's also the possibility it had astronomical significance. Some researchers have noted potential alignments with celestial events, though these theories remain controversial and unproven. What we can say with certainty is that generation after generation, for 3,000 years or more, people living near this figure have maintained it, carefully preserving its form. Even when Christianity displaced older religions, even when the original meaning may have been forgotten, people continued to care for the White Horse. In medieval times, the cleaning of the horse became a festival occasion, with communities gathering to clear the chalk and celebrate. This continuity of care across such vast stretches of time is perhaps even more remarkable than the figure itself. It speaks to something deeply human, the desire to preserve and pass on what came before, even when we're no longer certain why. Let this ancient horse carry your thoughts as you drift into dreams, its white form glowing against green hills, mysterious and eternal. Cochno Stone, Scotland's ancient cup and ring slab. In West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, lies one of the finest examples of Neolithic rock art in the country, though for much of recent history it was hidden from view. The Cochno Stone is a massive slab measuring about 42 feet by 26 feet, covered in intricate carvings, spirals, concentric circles, grooves, and the distinctive cup and ring marks that characterize much of Britain's ancient rock art. The stone dates to approximately 3000 BCE, making it roughly 5,000 years old. It was discovered in 1887 by Reverend James Harvey, but by 1965, it faced threats from vandalism and weathering. The decision was made to bury it under several feet of soil to protect it. There it remained, hidden and largely forgotten, until archaeologists re-excavated it in 2016 using 3D scanning technology to document the carvings in unprecedented detail. The symbols carved into the Cochno Stone are mesmerizing: multiple cup marks, small circular depressions, surrounded by concentric rings. Some have channels or grooves leading away from them like rays from a sun. There are also linear grooves, spirals, and more complex patterns. Similar carvings appear on stones across Britain and Ireland, creating a widespread but mysterious artistic tradition. What do these symbols mean? This question has vexed archaeologists for generations. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mayan glyphs, we have no Rosetta Stone for Neolithic cup and ring marks. The people who created them had no written language that survived, and the meanings have been completely lost. Theories abound, naturally. Some researchers propose astronomical significance, suggesting the patterns might represent star maps, planetary movements, or solar and lunar cycles. The spirals could represent the sun's path across the sky or the cycles of the seasons. Others believe the carvings had ritual or religious meaning, perhaps representing journeys of the soul, entrances to the otherworld, or territorial markers. The cup marks might have held offerings, small amounts of oil, water, or other substances, as part of ceremonial practices. There's also speculation about the carvings serving practical purposes, maps of local landscapes, markers of water sources or metal deposits, or astronomical calculators for determining planting and harvest times. The honest answer is that we simply don't know, and we may never know with certainty. What we can appreciate is the effort involved. These carvings were laboriously pecked into hard stone using other stones as tools. Each cup mark, each ring, represents hours of patient work. Whoever created them believed they were important enough to justify this enormous investment of time and effort. The Cochno Stone also features some more recent additions, carvings that are clearly not Neolithic, including what appears to be crosses and other symbols added in more recent centuries. This layering of time, ancient carvings overlaid with more recent marks, creates a palimpsest of human presence, each generation leaving its trace on the stone. Now protected and documented, the Cochno Stone has been buried once again to preserve it for future generations. It sleeps beneath the earth, its ancient symbols hidden but not lost, waiting patiently for future archaeologists who might bring new technologies and new insights to its mysteries. Let this image of ancient symbols, carved with such care yet meaning now unknown, accompany you into restful sleep. Nazca Lines, giant desert drawings of unknown purpose. In the arid coastal plains of southern Peru, scratched into the desert surface, are images so large they can only be fully appreciated from the air. The Nazca Lines consist of hundreds of geometric shapes, straight lines stretching for miles, and enormous figures of animals and plants. Created between 500 BCE and 500 CE by the Nazca culture, they've puzzled observers since their discovery by modern aviation in the 1920s. The lines themselves were created using a simple but labor-intensive process. The Nazca Desert has a dark surface layer of stones and pebbles. By removing this top layer to expose the lighter-colored soil beneath, the Nazca people created lasting images. The extremely dry climate, with minimal rain and wind, has preserved these lines for over 1,500 years. The figures include a spider, a monkey, a hummingbird with a wingspan of over 300 feet, a condor, a pelican, and many others. There are also geometric shapes, triangles, trapezoids, spirals, and perfectly straight lines that run for miles, some even crossing directly over the animal figures, suggesting they were created at different times. Why create images you can't fully see from ground level? This question has spawned numerous theories, ranging from the scholarly to the fantastical. In the 1960s, author Erich von Däniken famously proposed they were landing strips for ancient astronauts, a theory that captured popular imagination but lacks any archaeological support. More grounded theories focus on the Nazca people's relationship with water and agriculture in this extremely arid environment. Researcher Maria Reiche, who dedicated her life to studying and preserving the lines, proposed they served as an astronomical calendar, with various lines aligning with celestial events to help predict seasons and rains. Others suggest the lines were ceremonial pathways, perhaps processional routes for religious rituals. Walking the lines could have been an act of devotion or communication with deities. Some researchers have noted that many of the straight lines point towards sources of water or mountains that captured water, suggesting the lines might be prayers or offerings to gods associated with water, the most precious resource in the desert. Recent studies using drones and satellite imagery have revealed new figures previously unknown, including hundreds of smaller geoglyphs. This has led researchers to reconsider the lines' purposes, suggesting perhaps they served multiple functions over the centuries of their creation. What's remarkable is the precision involved. The animal figures maintain their proportions even at enormous scale. The straight lines are extraordinarily straight, some run for miles without significant deviation. This required careful planning, sophisticated surveying techniques, and coordination among groups of workers. The Nazca Lines were recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but they face threats from development, climate change, and occasional vandalism. In recent years, there have been incidents of vehicles inadvertently driving across the lines, leaving permanent marks on these ancient artworks. Standing in the desert, looking at these immense figures scratched into the earth, you're confronted with the mystery of human motivation. Why did the Nazca people invest so much effort into creating images primarily visible only to their gods or to birds? What drove this monumental artistic and spiritual expression? Let these ancient lines guide your thoughts as you drift toward rest, stretching across the desert like roads leading into mystery. Sajama Lines, Bolivia's vast geoglyph network. While the Nazca Lines capture most of the attention, high in the Altiplano of Bolivia exists an even larger geoglyph network that remains less well-known, the Sajama Lines. These straight paths, etched into the landscape, cover an estimated 8,700 square miles around Mount Sajama, creating what might be the most extensive artwork in human history. Unlike the Nazca Lines, which were created by removing surface stones, the Sajama Lines were made by clearing dark volcanic rock to create lighter-colored pathways. From the air, they appear as thousands of perfectly straight lines radiating across the landscape, often converging on small stone mounds or ancient villages. Individual lines can stretch for miles, running with remarkable straightness across terrain that includes hills, valleys, and plains. The network is so extensive that its full scope was only appreciated in recent decades through aerial photography and satellite imagery. Archaeologists estimate there are thousands of individual lines, possibly tens of thousands, though comprehensive cataloging remains incomplete. The lines were likely created by the Aymara people and their predecessors over a period spanning perhaps 3,000 years, from around 1500 BC to 1500 CE. This means the line network represents generations of work, with paths being maintained, extended, and added to across millennia. What were they for? The theories parallel those for the Nazca Lines, but with some important differences. The Sajama Lines often lead to or connect important sites, hilltops that provide panoramic views, ancient villages, and cholpas, above-ground burial towers that dot the Altiplano landscape. Many researchers believe the lines served as sacred pathways for ceremonial processions or pilgrimages. Walking these straight paths might have been a form of worship or meditation, a way of connecting to the landscape and to sacred mountains like Sajama itself, which is the highest peak in Bolivia. The lines might also have had practical functions, serving as trade routes or paths between communities. However, their extreme straightness suggests something beyond mere pragmatism. These weren't efficient routes following the easiest terrain but deliberate, ritually significant paths. Some researchers have proposed astronomical alignments, with certain lines pointing towards sunset or sunrise positions on significant dates. Others suggest the lines might have marked territories, water sources, or agricultural zones. What's particularly fascinating is how the lines have been preserved. The Altiplano's harsh, dry climate and sparse vegetation help maintain the paths, but also, local communities appear to have maintained and respected these lines across generations, even into modern times when their original purpose may have been forgotten. The Sajama Lines receive far less attention than their Peruvian counterparts, partly due to their remote location and Bolivia's lower tourism profile. This means they remain understudied, with much work yet to be done in mapping, dating, and understanding their full extent and purpose. In some ways, the Sajama Lines are even more mysterious than the Nazca Lines. While Nazca features distinct, recognizable figures, Sajama is almost purely geometric, thousands of straight lines creating an abstract pattern across the landscape. What does this difference in expression tell us about the peoples who created them? As this segment draws to a close, let yourself imagine the high Altiplano, thin air and endless sky, straight paths stretching toward distant mountains, created by countless feet walking the same routes over centuries. Let these ancient pathways guide you into deep, peaceful sleep, your mind following straight lines into the restful darkness of dreams. Sleep well. 7 Pagodas of Mahabalipuram, the sunken temples of India. Along the coast of Tamil Nadu in southern India stands the shore temple of Mahabalipuram, a beautiful 8th century structure carved from granite, facing the Bay of Bengal. But according to local legend, this temple isn't alone. Fishermen have long told stories of 6 other temples, now submerged beneath the waves, creating what they call the 7 Pagodas of Mahabalipuram. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as folklore, romantic tales with no basis in reality. Then came the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004. As the waves receded, several witnesses reported seeing structures briefly exposed on the ocean floor, stone blocks, walls, and what appeared to be carved figures, visible for just moments before the water returned. Following these reports, marine archaeologists conducted underwater surveys off the coast of Mahabalipuram. What they found was remarkable: structures lying beneath the waves, including what appear to be foundation walls, scattered architectural elements, and carved stones. The discoveries suggest that there were indeed additional structures here, now submerged. But were there 6 temples, creating the legendary 7 pagodas? The evidence is less clear on this point. What seems certain is that the coastline has changed dramatically over the centuries. Sea levels have risen, coastal erosion has occurred, and structures that once stood on dry land are now underwater. The shore temple itself shows severe erosion from centuries of salt spray and waves. It's likely that other temples once stood nearby, and over time, the sea claimed them. Whether the number was exactly 6 is perhaps less important than the broader truth. Mahabalipuram was once a major port city and religious center, and much of it has been lost to the ocean. The underwater structures discovered so far date to different periods, some possibly predating the shore temple by centuries. This suggests a long history of construction and habitation along this coast, with rising seas gradually claiming the ancient city piece by piece. Diving among these submerged ruins must be an ethereal experience, swimming over ancient walls, seeing carved stones covered in coral and sea life, imagining these structures as they once were, standing proud above the waves, filled with worshippers and the sound of temple bells. Now they are silent, inhabited only by fish, their prayers offered to the deep. The 7 pagodas of Mahabalipuram remind us that the line between legend and history is sometimes blurred. Stories passed down through generations can contain kernels of truth, memories of real places and real losses, preserved through storytelling when written records didn't exist. Let these sunken temples drift through your thoughts as you relax deeper, ancient stones beneath gentle waves, peaceful and still. Yonaguni Monument, a lost city beneath the waves. Off the coast of Yonaguni, the southernmost island of Japan, lies one of the most controversial underwater discoveries in archaeology. The Yonaguni Monument, discovered in 1986 by a local dive operator, is a massive rock formation featuring what appear to be terraces, steps, pillars, and geometric shapes, all lying beneath about 80 feet of water. The formation is enormous, spanning roughly 490 feet by 130 feet and rising about 90 feet from the ocean floor. From certain angles, it looks remarkably artificial. Straight edges, right angles, flat surfaces, and what appear to be deliberate cuts and carvings. There are structures that look like staircases, platforms that seem too level to be natural, and formations that resemble architectural features. The debate centers on one fundamental question: is this a natural geological formation, or is it the remains of an ancient man-made structure? The controversy has raged for decades, with passionate advocates on both sides. Those who believe it's artificial point to its geometric features, the apparent tool marks on some surfaces, and the overall layout which seems too organized to be natural. Marine geologist Masaoki Kimura has studied the site extensively and argues it's a man-made structure, possibly the remains of a lost civilization that existed when sea levels were lower, perhaps 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. Skeptics, including most mainstream geologists, argue that the formation is entirely natural, created by geological processes. Sandstone, which the monument is made of, naturally fractures along straight lines and can create formations that look deceptively artificial. The underwater currents and erosion could have enhanced these features, creating the appearance of steps and terraces. One compelling argument for the natural formation theory is that there are no unambiguous artificial features, no pottery shards, no tools, no definitive carved symbols or writing. If this were truly an ancient city or temple, you'd expect to find artifacts, remnants of the people who built and used it. However, the site does contain some features that are harder to explain naturally. There's what appears to be a carved face or figure on one of the rocks. There are holes that look like they might have held posts or beams. And the overall composition does seem remarkably geometric. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. It's possible that natural formations were modified and enhanced by ancient people, creating a hybrid of geological accident and human design. The formations might have been discovered by early inhabitants who then carved, shaped, and used them for ceremonial or practical purposes. If Yonaguni is artificial, it would be extraordinarily old, dating to a time before the area was submerged by rising seas at the end of the last ice age. This would make it one of the oldest structures on Earth, predating the pyramids by thousands of years. Such a claim requires extraordinary evidence, which has proven difficult to establish definitively. Diving at Yonaguni is an experience divers describe as surreal. The massive stone structures loom out of the blue water, their geometric shapes creating an eerie sense of purpose and design. Whether shaped by humans or by nature, they are undeniably impressive, a reminder that the ocean holds many secrets still. Let the mystery of Yonaguni settle over you now, ancient stone beneath ancient waters, its origins debated, its purpose unknown. Whether temple or geology, it rests peacefully on the ocean floor, and so should you rest now, peacefully, letting questions fade into the gentle rhythm of sleep. 10,000-year-old sunken city off Cuba, a lost civilization underwater. In 2001, a team using sonar equipment to survey the ocean floor off the western coast of Cuba made a startling announcement. At a depth of approximately 2,000 feet, their sonar had detected what appeared to be a massive complex of geometric structures, symmetrical stone formations arranged in patterns that suggested streets, pyramids, and buildings. The formations covered an area of roughly 2 square miles and included what looked like large rectangular blocks arranged in patterns, circular formations, and pyramid-like structures. The sonar images were intriguing enough that the discovery made international headlines, with speculation about a lost civilization, perhaps even the legendary Atlantis. Advanced Deep Ocean Engineering, the Canadian company conducting the survey, returned to the site with underwater vehicles equipped with cameras. The footage they captured showed rock formations, though interpreting these images proved challenging. At such depths, in dark water with limited visibility, it's difficult to determine definitively whether formations are natural or artificial. Here's where the mystery deepens, and where skepticism becomes necessary. For these structures to be man-made, they would need to have been built when the area was above water. Geological evidence suggests that sea levels were indeed lower during the last ice age, but to have submerged structures at 2,000 feet deep would require them to be extraordinarily old, potentially 50,000 years or more. This timing creates serious problems for the artificial structure theory. There's no credible archaeological evidence for any civilization capable of building stone structures 50,000 years ago. Human civilization as we understand it, with agriculture, cities, and monumental architecture, only emerged about 12,000 years ago. Some researchers have proposed alternative explanations involving more recent volcanic activity or seismic events that could have caused more recent structures to sink suddenly to great depths. However, there's no geological evidence supporting such dramatic and rapid subsidence in this area. The most likely explanation, according to mainstream geology, is that these are natural rock formations, possibly volcanic in origin or created by other geological processes. Underwater geological formations can look remarkably geometric and structured, especially when viewed through sonar, which can create ambiguous images that our pattern-seeking brains interpret as artificial. Since the initial discovery and brief period of investigation, the site has received relatively little follow-up study. The depth makes investigation expensive and difficult. Without clearer evidence, artifacts, tool marks, definitive architectural features, most archaeologists have moved on to more promising sites. But the story persists in popular imagination, a tantalizing possibility of a lost civilization beneath the waves. It appeals to something deep in human nature, the hope that there's more to our past than we know, that mysteries remain to be solved, that beneath the ocean's surface lie secrets waiting to be discovered. Whether these formations are natural or artificial may never be definitively determined without more extensive investigation. For now, they remain one of the ocean's many mysteries, lying silent in the dark depths off Cuba's coast. Let this mystery sink into your consciousness as you drift towards sleep, deep and dark and peaceful like the ocean floor itself. Ruins of Nan Madol, the floating city of the Pacific. On the eastern shore of Pohnpei, one of the Caroline Islands in Micronesia, lies one of archaeology's most impressive and mysterious sites. Nan Madol, sometimes called the Venice of the Pacific, consists of nearly 100 artificial islets built on a coral reef, connected by a network of canals. Massive basalt structures rise from the water, creating a city that appears to float. The site was constructed between 1200 and 1500 CE and served as the ceremonial and political center of the Sordala dynasty. The islets were built by placing huge basalt logs in crisscross patterns, creating foundations and walls for temples, residences, and tombs. Some of these basalt columns weigh up to 50 tons. What makes Nan Madol remarkable is its sheer ambition. Building an entire city on a reef, moving massive stones across water, creating 92 artificial islands, this required extraordinary organization, labor, and commitment. The total weight of basalt used in construction is estimated at 750,000 metric tons. Where did these massive stones come from? The nearest quarry is on the opposite side of the island, meaning the stones had to be transported many miles, likely by raft across the reef. How did the builders manage this? How did they move 50-ton stones without cranes, without wheeled vehicles, across water, and then position them precisely? Local legend offers a magical explanation. The stones flew through the air, moved by the incantations of powerful sorcerers. While this isn't literally true, it reflects the sense of impossibility the construction must have inspired even in those who built it. The city was divided into different sectors with specific functions. Some islets held royal residences, others temples, still others served as military installations or mortuary complexes. The layout suggests a highly stratified society with strict social divisions. At its peak, Nan Madol housed perhaps 1,000 people, though many more lived in settlements on the main island of Pohnpei and would visit the city for ceremonies and to deliver tributes to their rulers. The city was sustained by a complex system of tribute from outlying communities, who provided food, labor, and resources to maintain this extraordinary place. Then, around 1500 CE, Nan Madol was abandoned. The reasons aren't entirely clear, though environmental factors likely played a role. The artificial islets required constant maintenance. The canals needed dredging. The effort of sustaining the city, combined with possible food shortages, may have made it unsustainable. Today, Nan Madol is largely in ruins, slowly being reclaimed by jungle and sea. Mangrove trees grow from ancient walls. Fish swim through rooms that once housed rulers. The site is difficult to access, requiring boat travel and facing constant threats from tropical weather and rising sea levels. Despite its impressive scale, Nan Madol remains relatively unknown compared to other ancient wonders. Perhaps its remote location has kept it from popular consciousness. But for those who visit, it's an unforgettable experience, walking among massive stone walls rising from the water, imagining the city in its glory, feeling the weight of stones that seemingly shouldn't be there, in the middle of the Pacific, defying ocean and time. Let the image of this floating city accompany you into sleep, ancient stones rising from tropical waters, canals reflecting moonlight, a place of mystery and ambition now silent except for the sound of waves. Rest peacefully among these ruins in your mind. Longyou Caves, the underground enigma with no builders. In Zhejiang province, China, beneath a hill near the village of Longyou, lies one of the most puzzling archaeological discoveries in recent decades. In 1992, local villagers began pumping water from what they thought were natural ponds. What they uncovered was astounding: massive artificial caves, carved from solid sandstone, their scale and precision defying explanation. To date, 24 caves have been discovered, though surveys suggest there may be more. These aren't small cavities but enormous chambers, some with ceilings 30 feet high and floor areas of over 20,000 square feet. The caves feature carved pillars supporting the roofs, uniform spacing, precise angles, and carefully designed drainage systems. The walls and ceilings show regular chisel marks, creating a distinctive pattern across every surface, millions upon millions of precise cuts that cover every inch of stone. The marks are so uniform they create an almost decorative effect, parallel lines covering the vast expanse of carved rock. What's truly mysterious is that there are no historical records of these caves being built. Chinese civilization is one of the most thoroughly documented in human history, with detailed records going back thousands of years. Yet nowhere in any historical text is there mention of this massive construction project. Based on the style and limited archaeological evidence, researchers estimate the caves were created over 2,000 years ago, possibly during the Qin or Han dynasties. But this is speculation. Without definitive dating or historical documentation, we can't be certain. The purpose of the caves is equally mysterious. They are too large and too numerous to be simple storage. Some have proposed they were quarries, but if so, where did all the excavated stone go? The amount of rock removed from these caves would be massive, estimated at nearly 1 million cubic meters. No nearby structures account for this volume of stone. Others suggest military use, perhaps as barracks or storage for armies. The uniform design and large capacity could support this theory. But again, the lack of historical records is puzzling. Military installations would typically be documented, especially in Chinese administrative records which were remarkably thorough. Some caves contain carved fish and birds on their walls, and one features a carved horse. These decorations suggest the caves weren't purely utilitarian but had some ceremonial or symbolic significance. Perhaps they were temples or sacred spaces of some kind. One of the most intriguing aspects is the precision of the carving. The pillars are evenly spaced, the angles are consistent, and the roof is supported in a way that has kept these chambers stable for over 2,000 years. This demonstrates sophisticated engineering knowledge. The caves also show awareness of what lay above ground. The locations of the caves were carefully planned to avoid disturbing structures and important sites on the surface. This suggests detailed surveying and planning before excavation began. How was such a massive project kept secret, Or if not secret, how was it erased from historical memory? The amount of labor required would have been enormous, possibly involving thousands of workers over many years. Yet no record remains, no mention in any text, no local legends that clearly refer to their construction. The Longyou Caves stand as a reminder that even in well-documented civilizations, mysteries persist. Somewhere in the vast archives of Chinese history, perhaps an explanation exists, waiting to be discovered. Or perhaps the records were lost, destroyed, or never made. Let this underground mystery accompany you into sleep, vast chambers carved in darkness, their purpose forgotten, their builders unknown. Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, Malta's acoustic Neolithic temple. Beneath the streets of Paola, Malta, carved into solid limestone, lies one of the world's most remarkable prehistoric sites. The Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is an underground temple complex dating to approximately 4000 to 2500 BCE, making it roughly 6,000 years old. It's the only known prehistoric underground temple in the world. The Hypogeum was discovered accidentally in 1902 when workers cutting cisterns for new houses broke through the roof of the uppermost chamber. What they found was extraordinary, a complex of interconnected chambers spread across 3 levels, carved entirely from solid rock, extending about 34 feet underground. The structure contains sleeping chambers, storage rooms, and what appears to be a main hall. Some rooms feature carved pillars, doorways, and decorative elements that mimic above-ground temple architecture. The builders essentially carved negative space, creating rooms and features by removing stone rather than by building up. The most remarkable chamber is called the Oracle Room. This small chamber has unusual acoustic properties. When someone speaks or makes sounds at certain frequencies, particularly male voices around 110 Hz, the sound resonates throughout the entire complex with an almost supernatural quality. The vibrations can be felt physically, creating a powerful sensory experience. Was this acoustic property intentional? Many researchers believe it was. The Neolithic people who built the Hypogeum would have discovered this resonance and likely incorporated it into their rituals. Imagine standing in the oracle room, chanting or speaking, feeling your voice amplified and transformed by the stone around you, the sound filling the chambers, the walls themselves seeming to speak. Research has shown that sound at these frequencies can affect human consciousness, potentially inducing altered states or trance-like conditions. This has led to speculation that the Hypogeum was used for rituals designed to facilitate spiritual experiences, with sound playing a central role. The site was used as a burial place. Remains of over 7,000 individuals were found in the chambers, along with pottery, beads, and small carved figures including the famous Sleeping Lady, a small clay figure of a reclining woman that's become one of Malta's most iconic ancient artifacts. The combination of burial site and temple suggests the Hypogeum served multiple sacred functions. It was a place where the living came to honor the dead, to conduct ceremonies, and perhaps to seek connection with ancestors or deities through the extraordinary acoustic experiences the structure provided. The engineering required to create the Hypogeum is impressive. Carving through solid limestone using stone and bone tools, creating stable chambers and halls, ensuring the structure wouldn't collapse. This required sophisticated understanding of geology and architecture. The builders even carved into different types of limestone within the bedrock, choosing their chambers' locations based on the workability and stability of the stone. Today, the Hypogeum is carefully protected and access is strictly limited to preserve the delicate environment. The breathing and body heat of visitors can damage the ancient walls, so only small groups are allowed in, and reservations must be made far in advance. Standing in these ancient chambers, you're surrounded by 6,000 years of human history. The stone walls held the voices of Neolithic worshippers, absorbed their rituals and grief and celebrations. Now they are mostly silent, holding their secrets close. Let the resonance of those ancient voices accompany you into sleep, vibrating gently through time, carrying you peacefully into dreams. Lost Labyrinth of Egypt, a massive underground mystery. Ancient historians wrote of a structure in Egypt so massive and complex that it dwarfed even the pyramids. The labyrinth, as it was called, was described by Herodotus, Strabo, and Pliny the Elder, all of whom marveled at its scale. According to their accounts, it contained thousands of rooms on multiple levels, both above and below ground, connected by passages so complex that visitors required guides to avoid becoming hopelessly lost. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, claimed the labyrinth contained 3,000 rooms, 1,500 above ground and 1,500 below. He was allowed to tour the upper levels but was prevented from seeing the underground chambers, which he was told contained the tombs of kings and sacred crocodiles. He wrote that the labyrinth surpassed even the pyramids in the labor and expense of its construction. So where is this incredible structure? That's the mystery. The ancient sources place it near Lake Moeris, modern-day Lake Karun, in the Femme region, but its exact location has been lost to time. In the 19th century, archaeologist Flinders Petrie discovered the ruins of a large temple complex near the Pyramid of Amenemhat III at Hawara. He identified this as the possible site of the labyrinth. However, what remained was disappointing: a field of rubble and stone fragments, nothing resembling the magnificent structure described by ancient writers. Petrie concluded that the labyrinth had been almost completely destroyed, its stones quarried for use in other building projects over the centuries, a common fate for ancient Egyptian monuments. The above-ground portions were largely gone, and if underground portions existed, they remained hidden. In recent years, a team of researchers using ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive scanning technologies has conducted surveys of the area around Hawara. Their results are tantalizing. The scans suggest the presence of large structures beneath the sand, possibly a grid of chambers similar to what ancient sources described. However, Egyptian authorities have not permitted excavation. The political situation, concerns about site preservation, and limited resources have prevented follow-up investigation. So the labyrinth, if it exists beneath the sands of Hawara, remains buried, its chambers unseen, its secrets preserved in darkness. Why would such a structure have been built? The most likely explanation is that it served as a massive administrative center for the Femme region, which was heavily developed during the Middle Kingdom period. The complex might have contained offices, storage rooms, religious spaces, and residential areas for administrators and priests. The underground portions might have served as tombs or as storage for sacred objects and important records. Ancient Egyptian temples often had extensive underground areas used for various purposes, though typically not on the scale described for the labyrinth. It's also possible that ancient accounts exaggerated the structure's scale. Ancient writers sometimes embellished their descriptions, and by the time Herodotus visited Egypt, the labyrinth was already ancient and perhaps partially ruined. The stories might have grown in the telling. Still, the accounts are consistent across multiple ancient sources, suggesting they all saw something genuinely impressive. Whether it was truly 3,000 rooms or merely a few hundred, the labyrinth clearly made a lasting impression on those who witnessed it. The Lost Labyrinth reminds us that even in Egypt, one of the most extensively studied ancient civilizations, major monuments can disappear, leaving only textual references and tantalizing hints beneath the sand. Let the image of vast chambers beneath the desert accompany you into sleep, corridors extending in darkness, silent and waiting. Antikythera mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer. In 1901, sponge divers exploring a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera made a discovery that would puzzle scientists for over a century. Among the bronze statues, pottery, and other cargo from this ancient Roman ship, they found a corroded lump of bronze and wood. It appeared to contain gears, complex, precisely cut bronze gears locked together in an intricate mechanism. This object, now known as the Antikythera mechanism, dates to approximately 100 BCE. It's essentially an ancient analog computer, a mechanical device designed to calculate and predict astronomical phenomena with remarkable precision. When intact, the mechanism stood about 13 inches tall and sat in a wooden case. Inside were at least 30 bronze gears, possibly more, arranged in complex layers. The front featured dials showing the positions of the Sun, Moon, and probably the 5 planets known to ancient Greeks. The back included dials for predicting eclipses and tracking the Olympic Games cycle. The sophistication is astounding. The gears were cut with precision, featuring teeth that would ensure smooth, accurate rotation. The mechanism incorporated differential gearing, a complex technique that wouldn't appear again in Western technology until medieval times, over 1,000 years later. How did it work? You turned a crank, and the gears rotated, moving pointers on the dials to show the positions of celestial bodies on any given date. Want to know where Mars will be 6 months from now? Turn the crank to the appropriate date, and the mechanism calculates it. Want to know when the next lunar eclipse will occur? The back dial shows predictions years in advance. The mechanism incorporated sophisticated understanding of astronomy. It accounted for the elliptical orbit of the Moon, a discovery usually credited to Hipparchus, and it calculated with remarkable accuracy. The eclipse predictions, for instance, follow the Saros cycle, a period of about 18 years after which eclipses repeat in similar patterns. 4 decades after its discovery, the mechanism's complexity was underestimated. It was so corroded and fragmented that its true nature remained unclear. Only through X-ray imaging, CT scanning, and careful reconstruction has its sophistication been revealed. Even now, researchers continue to discover new details about its functions. Who built it? We don't know for certain. The craftsmanship suggests a skilled instrument maker, possibly working in Rhodes, which was a center of astronomical study in the ancient world. The astronomer Hipparchus lived in Rhodes, and some researchers have suggested connections, though no definitive evidence links him to the mechanism. What's perhaps most troubling about the Antikythera mechanism is what it implies about lost knowledge. Here's a device demonstrating sophisticated mechanical and astronomical knowledge from 100 BCE. Yet no ancient texts describe how to build such a mechanism. No similar devices have been found. For centuries, this level of technological sophistication seemed to have vanished from human civilization. It suggests that ancient knowledge was more advanced than we often assume, and that much has been lost. How many other sophisticated devices existed but left no trace because they didn't happen to sink in shipwrecks in the right places? What other knowledge did ancient engineers possess that died with them, unrecorded and forgotten? The Antikythera mechanism is now housed in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, a testament to ancient ingenuity. Let this ancient computer accompany you into sleep, bronze gears turning, calculating the dance of planets and stars, predicting eclipses yet to come, a machine that remembered when memory failed. Baghdad Battery. Did ancient people use electricity? In 1936, while working at the Iraqi State Museum, German archaeologist Wilhelm König made an unusual claim about several clay jars in the collection. These jars, discovered near Baghdad and dating to approximately 250 BCE to 224 CE during the Parthian or Sasanian periods, contained copper cylinders with iron rods inside. König proposed they were ancient galvanic cells, primitive batteries capable of generating electrical current. Each jar stands about 5 inches tall. Inside the ceramic vessel is a copper cylinder, and inside that, an iron rod. The copper cylinder is capped with what appears to be asphalt or bitumen. If you filled such a jar with an acidic liquid, vinegar or wine, for example, it would indeed generate a small electrical current, roughly 1 to 2 volts, through the chemical reaction between the different metals. But did ancient Mesopotamians actually use these as batteries? And if so, what for? These questions have generated considerable debate, with some researchers embracing the battery theory and others remaining deeply skeptical. Proponents of the battery theory suggest several possible uses. One popular explanation is electroplating, using electrical current to coat objects with thin layers of gold or other metals. Some ancient artifacts do show evidence of extremely thin metal coatings that could potentially have been created through electroplating, though they could also have been achieved through other techniques like fire gilding. Another theory suggests the jars might have been used for therapeutic purposes, providing mild electrical shocks as a form of medical treatment. Ancient texts do occasionally mention strange tingling sensations from certain objects, though these references are vague and open to interpretation. The skeptical view, held by most mainstream archaeologists, is that these jars were probably used to store sacred scrolls. The copper cylinder would protect papyrus or parchment from moisture and insects. The iron rod might have been added later, or might have served as a spindle around which scrolls were rolled. The asphalt seal would keep moisture out. This explanation is considered more likely because there's no clear archaeological context suggesting electrical use. No wires have been found. No definitely electroplated objects from this period and region have been identified. No ancient texts describe electrical phenomena or applications. However, the absence of evidence isn't necessarily evidence of absence. Ancient knowledge has been lost many times throughout history. Techniques that were once common can be forgotten completely within generations if not carefully documented. Experiments have confirmed that the jars can function as batteries when filled with appropriate liquids. Replicas have been built and tested, producing measurable voltage. So while we can say they could have been used as batteries, proving they were used that way is much more difficult. The Baghdad Battery remains in that frustrating category of ancient artifacts that are intriguing but ultimately ambiguous. They could be evidence of sophisticated electrical knowledge in the ancient world, or they could be simple storage vessels that happen to accidentally resemble batteries. Without more definitive evidence, the mystery persists. Let this puzzle accompany you into rest, clay jars that might hold secrets of ancient electricity, or might simply have held scrolls, their true purpose debated by scholars while they sit silent in museum cases, keeping their secrets. Roman dodecahedrons, ancient objects with no explanation. Scattered across the former territories of the Roman Empire, from Britain to Hungary, archaeologists have discovered hundreds of mysterious objects that have never been satisfactorily explained. Roman dodecahedrons are hollow geometric objects, typically made of bronze, featuring 12 pentagonal faces with circular holes of varying sizes in each face. Small knobs protrude from each corner. They range in size from about 1.5 to 4 inches across. They are clearly carefully crafted, with some showing evidence of high-quality metalworking. They are found in various archaeological contexts, sometimes in hoards with other valuable objects, sometimes in domestic settings, occasionally in graves. Here's the mystery. Despite finding hundreds of these objects over more than 2 centuries of archaeology, we have no definitive explanation for what they were used for. Roman texts, which describe all manner of tools, instruments, and objects, never mention dodecahedrons. No images of them appear in Roman art or mosaics. They left no trace in the written or visual record of Roman civilization, despite clearly being widespread. The theories are numerous and creative. Some propose they were surveying instruments, used by Roman engineers to measure distances or angles. The different-sized holes could correspond to different measuring functions. However, no clear instructions for such use exist, and the objects don't seem standardized enough for precision measurement. Others suggest they were candle holders, with candles inserted into the holes. The hollow interior might have created interesting light effects. But this seems an overly complex design for such a simple function, and many dodecahedrons show no evidence of soot or wax. Another popular theory is that they were used in religious or mystical practices, perhaps for divination or as ritual objects. The geometric complexity might have held symbolic significance in Roman numerology or cosmology. But again, no textual evidence supports this use. Some researchers have proposed they were tools for knitting, specifically for creating gloves. The different-sized holes could create different-sized fingers, and threads could be wound around the knobs. Experimental archaeology has shown this is technically possible, though it seems unlikely given where many dodecahedrons have been found. Other theories include toys, astronomical instruments, dice, gauges for measuring grain, tools for calibrating water pipes, military range-finding devices, and even decorative objects with no practical purpose. What makes the mystery particularly puzzling is that these objects were clearly valued. They are made from bronze, which wasn't cheap. They show careful craftsmanship. They are found across a vast geographic area, suggesting widespread use. Yet somehow, their purpose was never recorded or has been completely lost. Perhaps they served different purposes in different regions or time periods. Perhaps they were specialized tools used by specific trades or professions whose knowledge died out. Or perhaps the explanation is so simple, so obvious to Romans, that no one thought to write it down, like trying to explain what a pencil is to someone in a culture that's used them every day for generations. The Roman dodecahedrons remind us that material objects can outlast memory and knowledge. These bronze shapes will probably outlast many of our modern technologies, sitting in museums, beautiful and enigmatic, their purpose debated by scholars as you drift peacefully to sleep, letting the mystery of these geometric forms tumble gently through your thoughts like strange dice cast by ancient hands. As this segment comes to a close, let these mysteries accompany you into deep rest. Sunken temples and underground chambers, impossible mechanisms and forgotten knowledge, all of it fading now into the soft darkness of sleep. Rest well, and let the ancient world watch over your dreams. Piri Reis map, a 16th century map of the impossible. In 1929, scholars working in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul made a remarkable discovery. Hidden among old manuscripts was a fragment of a world map created in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. This map, drawn on gazelle skin, showed the Atlantic Ocean, the coasts of Europe, Africa, and South America with surprising accuracy for its time. But it's what else the map seems to show that has sparked decades of debate. The fragment that survives represents only about 1/3 of the original map. It shows the western coast of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and extends south to what appears to be a coastline at the bottom. Piri Reis included notes on his map explaining that he compiled it from about 20 source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great, and including maps captured from Spanish sailors. Here's where the mystery begins. Some researchers have argued that the southern coastline on the map represents Antarctica, specifically showing the coast as it would appear without ice. Since Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and its coastline beneath the ice wasn't mapped until the 20th century using modern technology, this would be impossible unless Piri Reis had access to very ancient maps created before Antarctica was covered in ice, potentially thousands of years ago. Proponents of this theory suggest it's evidence of a lost advanced civilization that mapped the world during the last ice age when Antarctica's coast was visible. They point to certain features on the map that seem to correspond to Antarctic geography revealed by modern seismic studies. However, most historians and cartographers remain unconvinced. The mainstream interpretation is much more prosaic. The southern portion of the map likely represents the coast of South America, extended and distorted. Renaissance maps frequently contained errors and distortions, especially in regions that were newly discovered and poorly understood. The Piri Reis map's accuracy for the parts of the world that were well known in 1513 is impressive but explainable. Piri Reis had access to excellent Portuguese and Spanish maps from the Age of Exploration. He was a skilled cartographer working in the Ottoman Empire, which was at its peak of power and sophistication. That he could compile an accurate map from available sources isn't mysterious, it's exactly what we'd expect from a talented mapmaker of his era. The notes on the map itself provide a simpler explanation for its sources. Piri Reis wasn't claiming to have discovered new lands but rather to have compiled the best available information from contemporary and older maps. When he mentions maps from Alexander's time, he's likely referring to classical geographic knowledge passed down and preserved through various sources, not to actual ancient maps showing Antarctic coastlines. Still, the map is beautiful and historically important. It provides valuable insight into 16th century Ottoman cartography and knowledge of the world. Whether it shows Antarctica or not, it represents a significant achievement in mapmaking. Let this map drift through your thoughts as you relax, coastlines drawn in careful detail, an admiral's attempt to capture the known world on gazelle skin, mysterious and beautiful regardless of what its southern edges truly represent. Lost Library of Alexandria, history's greatest intellectual loss. In the ancient world, one institution stood above all others as a repository of human knowledge. The Library of Alexandria, founded in Egypt around 300 BCE during the Ptolemaic dynasty, was the greatest library of the ancient world. It wasn't just a library but a research institution, a museum in the ancient sense, a place dedicated to the muses, to learning and scholarship. At its height, the library may have contained between 40,000 and 400,000 scrolls. Ancient estimates vary widely. Scholars traveled from across the known world to study there. The library employed copyists who would transcribe any book that arrived in Alexandria, sometimes keeping the original and returning the copy. Ships arriving in the harbor were searched for books, which were temporarily confiscated, copied, and returned, though sometimes the owners got back the copies rather than their originals. The scholars who worked there represent a constellation of ancient genius. Euclid wrote his Elements of Geometry here. Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy. Archimedes studied here, as did Galen and countless others. The library was where the Hebrew Bible was first translated into Greek, creating the Septuagint. It was a place where East met West, where knowledge from Greece, Egypt, Persia, India, and beyond was collected, studied, and preserved. Then it was lost. The tragedy is that we don't even know exactly how or when it was destroyed. There was no single catastrophic event that we can point to with certainty. Instead, the library seems to have declined over centuries, suffering multiple disasters and gradual deterioration. Julius Caesar's siege of Alexandria in 48 BC resulted in fires that destroyed part of the city's dockyards, and some ancient sources claim the library burned then, though this is disputed. Other sources suggest the main library survived this fire, but a separate collection in the Serapeum, a temple complex that housed part of the library's collection, was damaged. In 272 CE, Emperor Aurelian's forces fought in Alexandria, causing significant destruction to the area where the library stood. By this time, the library may have already been in decline, with fewer scholars, reduced funding, and a changing intellectual climate as Christianity spread through the Roman Empire. In 391 CE, the Serapeum was destroyed by Christian zealots under orders from Patriarch Theophilus, who viewed the pagan temple and its contents as abominations. Whether significant scrolls remained there by this time is uncertain, but any that did were lost. By the time of the Muslim conquest of Egypt in the 7th century, the library had long since ceased to function. The famous story that Caliph Omar ordered the library burned, saying if the books agree with the Quran, they are unnecessary, if they disagree, they are heretical, This story is almost certainly apocryphal, invented by later writers. There was no library left to burn by that time. What was lost? We can only guess, but the loss is staggering. Original works by Sophocles, Euripides, and other Greek playwrights, we know many of their plays only by title or reputation. Scientific treatises, mathematical works, histories of kingdoms now forgotten, philosophical texts, astronomical observations, medical knowledge, all vanished. Imagine if every book you'd ever heard of, every work of literature, science, and philosophy suddenly ceased to exist. That's comparable to what was lost when the Library of Alexandria gradually disappeared. The knowledge it contained represented centuries of accumulated human wisdom, and when it was gone, much of that wisdom was lost forever, setting back human progress by centuries. The loss of the Library of Alexandria stands as a reminder of how fragile knowledge is, how easily it can be lost when not carefully preserved. In our digital age, we imagine information is permanent, but history teaches us otherwise. Let this lost library accompany you into sleep, imagining its shelves filled with scrolls, scholars reading by lamplight, knowledge preserved and then tragically lost to time. Dead Sea Scrolls, ancient texts that rewrote religion. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd boy named Mohammed Edhdib was searching for a lost goat among the caves near the Dead Sea. He threw a stone into one of the caves and heard the sound of breaking pottery. What he and his companions discovered inside would become one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century, ancient scrolls hidden in clay jars, preserved by the dry desert climate for nearly 2,000 years. Over the next decade, searches of 11 caves near Qumran yielded hundreds of scrolls and thousands of fragments. Dating from approximately 250 BCE to 68 CE, these texts include the oldest known surviving copies of biblical books, along with many other religious writings, rules for community living, and apocalyptic texts. Before the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, the oldest complete Hebrew Bible dated to around 1000 CE. The Dead Sea Scrolls pushed that back by 1,000 years. For the first time, scholars could compare ancient texts with medieval copies and see how accurately the biblical text had been transmitted across the centuries. Remarkably, the texts showed that in most cases, the transmission had been extraordinarily faithful, with only minor variations. But the scrolls contained much more than biblical texts. Many scrolls describe the beliefs and practices of what scholars believe was an ascetic Jewish sect, possibly the Essenes, who lived in the desert community of Qumran. These texts reveal a group that had withdrawn from mainstream Jewish society, following strict purity laws, holding property in common, and believing they were living in the end times, awaiting a cosmic battle between good and evil. The Community Rule Scroll describes the organization and practices of this group in detail. The War Scroll describes an apocalyptic battle that would herald the end of days. The Thanksgiving hymns contain prayers and psalms. The Temple Scroll presents an idealized vision of Jewish law and temple worship. Together, these texts paint a picture of Jewish religious diversity in the late Second Temple period that was far more complex than previously understood. Some scrolls have generated particular controversy. The Copper Scroll, which we'll discuss separately, describes buried treasures. The fragmentary texts that mention a pierced Messiah spark debate about possible references to Jesus, though most scholars now believe these texts predate Christianity and refer to different figures or events entirely. The discovery of the scrolls also raised many questions. Why were they hidden in caves? The most accepted theory is that the Qumran community hid them during the First Jewish-Roman War, 66 to 73 CE, as Roman legions advanced. The residents either died or fled, and the scrolls remained hidden for nearly 2 millennia. Who wrote the scrolls? While most scholars connect them to the Essenes or a similar group at Qumran, some have proposed they were actually a library from Jerusalem, hidden in the desert for safekeeping. The debate continues, though the Qumran connection remains the dominant theory. The preservation of the scrolls is remarkable. The dry climate of the Dead Sea region, combined with the clay jars that protected them from moisture and animals, created perfect conditions for preservation. Some scrolls survived intact, while others crumbled into thousands of tiny fragments that scholars have spent decades piecing together like the world's most difficult jigsaw puzzle. Today, the Dead Sea Scrolls are among the most studied ancient texts in the world, and they continue to yield new insights as scholars decipher fragmentary texts and apply new technologies to analyze faded writing. They've transformed our understanding of ancient Judaism, the development of the Hebrew Bible, and the religious context from which Christianity emerged. Let these ancient scrolls rest in your mind as you drift toward sleep, texts hidden in desert caves, waiting patiently in darkness, preserving the words and beliefs of people who lived 2,000 years ago, their voices silent for centuries and then suddenly speaking again across the millennia. Copper Scroll, the treasure map no one has solved. Among the Dead Sea Scrolls, one stands out as completely unlike the others. While most scrolls were written on leather or papyrus, one was inscribed on copper sheets, rolled up and hidden in a cave. When archaeologists discovered it in 1952, the copper had oxidized and become too brittle to unroll safely. They had to cut it into strips to read its contents. What they found was astonishing: a list of 64 locations where enormous quantities of gold, silver, and other treasures were supposedly hidden. The text describes hiding places throughout Jerusalem and the surrounding area, with directions like, in the fortress which is in the Vale of Acre, 40 cubits under the steps entering to the east, a money chest and its contents, of a weight of 17 talents. Each location includes estimated quantities of treasure that, if taken literally, would amount to tons of gold and silver, wealth beyond imagination. Unlike the other religious texts found at Qumran, the Copper Scroll is written in a different Hebrew dialect, more colloquial and closer to the Mishnaic Hebrew that would have been spoken in everyday life. This has led some scholars to suggest it wasn't created by the same community that produced the other scrolls. The big question, is the treasure real? Several theories attempt to answer this. The Romantic theory says it's a genuine treasure map, possibly describing sacred temple treasures hidden during the Roman siege of Jerusalem. If so, finding even one cache would be the archaeological discovery of a lifetime. Expeditions have been mounted to search for the treasures, but none have succeeded in finding anything significant. The skeptical theory suggests the scroll is fiction, perhaps a legend or folk tale about hidden treasures, written down but never meant to be taken literally. The quantities mentioned are so enormous that they seem implausible, far exceeding what the Jerusalem temple likely possessed. A middle ground theory proposes that the scroll describes real hiding places but that the treasures were recovered long ago, shortly after they were hidden. In this view, the scroll was a record, but the treasures are already gone, claimed by those who hid them or by later treasure hunters. Another possibility is that the scroll describes symbolic or spiritual treasures rather than literal gold and silver. Some of the language in the scroll is ambiguous and could be interpreted metaphorically, though the straightforward, almost bureaucratic style of the text argues against this interpretation. One of the most intriguing aspects of the scroll is its final entry, which mentions another document, a duplicate list that gives more precise information about the locations and quantities. This second document has never been found. Without it, the Copper Scroll's directions remain frustratingly vague. Ancient place names have changed or been lost. Landscape features mentioned in the text no longer exist or can't be identified with certainty. Several locations mentioned in the scroll have been identified tentatively, and small-scale excavations have been attempted, but Israeli authorities generally don't permit extensive treasure hunting, and many of the sites are now under modern buildings or otherwise inaccessible. The Copper Scroll remains one of the most tantalizing documents from antiquity. Is it a genuine treasure map, a literary fiction, or something in between. The mystery endures, and somewhere in the hills around Jerusalem, perhaps beneath ancient stones and accumulated centuries of soil, treasures might wait, or might have long since vanished, or might never have existed at all. Let this mystery accompany you into sleep, buried gold, hidden in darkness, waiting or lost, real or imagined, a riddle inscribed in copper and hidden in a cave. Tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the emperor's untouched burial site. In 1974, farmers digging a well in Shaanxi province, China, made one of the most spectacular archaeological discoveries of all time. They uncovered fragments of terracotta figures that turned out to be part of a vast army, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, horses, and chariots, each one unique, buried in underground pits. This terracotta army guards the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of unified China, who died in 210 BCE. But here's the thing, while the terracotta warriors have been excavated and studied extensively, the emperor's actual tomb remains unopened. It sits beneath a large burial mound about a mile from the warrior pits, and Chinese authorities have decided not to excavate it, at least not yet. Why not? Several reasons. First, there are legitimate concerns about preservation. When the terracotta warriors were first excavated, they were painted in bright colors, but exposure to air caused the paint to deteriorate within hours. Modern preservation techniques have improved, but Chinese archaeologists want to be certain they can properly preserve whatever is inside the tomb before they open it. Second, ancient historian Sima Qian, writing about a century after Qin Shi Huang's death, described the tomb's interior in spectacular terms. According to his account, the tomb contains a vast underground palace with a ceiling decorated to represent the heavens, complete with pearls as stars. The floor represents the earth, with rivers of mercury flowing mechanically to represent China's major waterways. Crossbows were supposedly set to automatically fire at anyone who entered the tomb. Modern testing has revealed unusually high levels of mercury in the soil around the burial mound, lending some credence to Sima Qian's description. If the tomb really does contain rivers of mercury, opening it could release toxic vapors, endangering excavators and potentially damaging the contents. The tomb is also said to contain treasures beyond imagination, models of palaces, jade artifacts, precious metals, and all the goods an emperor would need in the afterlife. According to ancient accounts, craftsmen who worked on the tomb were sealed inside when it was completed to protect its secrets, and workers who might have known its location were executed. What else might be inside? Possibly the bodies of the emperor's concubines and servants, sacrificed to serve him in death. Ancient texts suggest that many people were buried with the emperor. There might also be documents, administrative records, historical texts, or literary works that could transform our understanding of ancient China. Ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive technologies have revealed that the burial mound does contain structures beneath it, confirming there's something substantial there. But the technology isn't advanced enough yet to show details of what those structures contain. The decision not to excavate reflects a philosophical shift in archaeology. In the early days of the discipline, archaeologists rushed to dig up everything they could find, sometimes causing irreparable damage in their haste. Modern archaeology emphasizes preservation and patience. The tomb has waited over 2,200 years. It can wait longer until technology exists to excavate it safely and preserve its contents properly. So the first emperor rests still, surrounded by mercury rivers and treasures, guarded by his terracotta army, his tomb's secrets preserved in darkness. Perhaps in your lifetime, or perhaps in a future generation, the tomb will be opened and its wonders revealed. But for now, it remains sealed, one of the world's greatest unopened time capsules. Let this sealed tomb accompany you into sleep, imagining underground palaces and rivers of mercury, treasures waiting in darkness, patient and still. Lost Tomb of Genghis Khan, the greatest burial mystery. Genghis Khan, the Mongol conqueror who created the largest contiguous land empire in history, died in 1227. According to tradition, his body was returned to Mongolia and buried somewhere in the mountains near his birthplace. The location of his tomb has remained a secret for nearly 800 years, making it one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. The secrecy was intentional and extreme. According to legend, the funeral procession killed anyone who witnessed it to prevent them from revealing the location. When the burial was complete, soldiers rode horses over the site to obliterate any trace of disturbed earth. Some accounts say a forest was planted on top, or a river was diverted to flow over the grave. Why such secrecy? Several explanations exist. Mongol tradition held that a person's grave should be private, undisturbed, a place for the soul to rest peacefully. Genghis Khan may have feared that enemies would desecrate his body if they found it, or that grave robbers would loot whatever treasures were buried with him. There's also a spiritual dimension. Mongols believed in the power of their leader's spirit, and Genghis Khan's burial place may have been intended as a sacred site, protected from profane eyes. Some legends say his spirit guards the Mongol people still, watching from his hidden resting place. Where might the tomb be? The most likely location is somewhere in the Khenti mountain range in northeastern Mongolia, possibly near Mount Burkhan Khaldan, which ancient sources identify as Genghis Khan's birthplace and which he reportedly designated as sacred. This area covers thousands of square miles of rugged terrain, making searching extremely difficult. Over the years, numerous expeditions have sought the tomb. In the 1990s and 2000s, several archaeological teams used satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and traditional surveying to search likely areas. Some claim to have found promising sites, but none have been confirmed as the actual tomb. There are also political and cultural sensitivities. Many Mongolians believe the tomb should remain undisturbed, respecting their ancestors' wishes and traditions. The Mongolian government has been ambivalent about treasure hunting expeditions, sometimes permitting them and sometimes not. There's concern that commercialization and tourism could damage Mongolia's cultural heritage. In 2004, a joint Japanese-Mongolian expedition found what they believed might be Genghis Khan's palace in the Khenti region. They speculated the tomb might be nearby. But further excavation was halted, reportedly due to political considerations and the discovery of a poisonous snake nest at the site, which some took as an omen that the place should be left alone. What might the tomb contain? If tradition was followed, Genghis Khan would have been buried with his weapons, horses, and valuable items. There might be treasures from across his vast empire: Chinese silks, Persian jewels, Indian gold. There might also be artifacts that would provide invaluable historical information about Mongol culture and Genghis Khan's reign. But perhaps the greatest treasure would be knowledge. Any inscriptions, documents, or artifacts could shed light on one of history's most influential yet enigmatic figures. Much of what we know about Genghis Khan comes from accounts written by his enemies or by later historians. His own people's perspective, if preserved in his tomb, would be invaluable. The tomb of Genghis Khan may never be found. It may have been destroyed by natural processes, erosion, earthquakes, floods. It may lie in a location so remote or well disguised that modern technology cannot detect it. Or it may yet be waiting, hidden in the mountains of Mongolia, keeping its secrets as the great Khan commanded. Let this hidden tomb guide you into sleep, somewhere in the mountains, unmarked and unknown, adding its mysteries across 8 centuries of silence. Unknown man in the Valley of Kings, the mummy no one can explain. In 1886, Egyptologist Gaston Maspero was examining royal mummies that had been discovered in a cache in the Valley of the Kings. Among the carefully preserved bodies of pharaohs and nobles, he found something disturbing: a mummy wrapped in sheepskin, considered impure in ancient Egypt, whose face was frozen in what appeared to be a scream of agony. The body had been mummified, but not with the usual care. The internal organs hadn't been removed properly, and the embalming was rushed and incomplete. This mummy was labeled Unknown Man E, and from the moment of its discovery, it has puzzled Egyptologists. Who was this person, and what did they do to deserve such unusual treatment? The body is that of a young man, probably in his 20s. Unlike typical royal mummies, which show serene or neutral expressions, Unknown Man E's face is contorted, mouth open wide, seeming to express terror or pain. Some researchers initially theorized he might have been buried alive or died in agony, though modern analysis suggests the expression is likely due to the jaw falling open after death and then being fixed in place during the mummification process. The sheepskin wrapping is particularly significant. Sheep were considered ritually impure in ancient Egypt, associated with the god Set, who represented chaos and was often viewed negatively. Wrapping someone in sheepskin was a deliberate insult, a way of denying them proper burial honors and potentially condemning them in the afterlife. Yet despite this dishonorable treatment, the person was mummified and placed in a royal cache. This suggests someone of high status who had committed some terrible crime or transgression. They were important enough that complete disposal of the body was not appropriate, but whatever they had done was serious enough to deny them proper burial rites. One popular theory identifies Unknown Man E as Prince Pentware, son of Pharaoh Rameses III. Historical texts describe a harem conspiracy in which Rameses III was murdered, and several people, including one of his sons, were implicated. The conspirators were put on trial, and some were executed while others were allowed to take their own lives. If Pentware was one of the conspirators, he might have been allowed to commit suicide and then given this strange, dishonorable burial. DNA analysis conducted in recent years has shown that Unknown Man E does share genetic markers with Rameses III, supporting the theory that he was indeed the pharaoh's son. However, the DNA evidence isn't conclusive enough to establish the relationship with absolute certainty. Other researchers have proposed different identities. Some suggest he might have been a foreign prisoner or a criminal of some kind. The quality of the mummification, despite being incomplete, suggests significant resources were expended, which argues for someone of importance. The mummy's expression continues to capture public imagination. Looking at Unknown Man E's face, even across thousands of years, you can't help but feel something: unease, curiosity, pity perhaps. Whatever story lies behind this young man's death and burial, it was clearly tragic and complicated. Unknown Man E remains on display in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, still screaming silently across the millennia, his identity debated, his story largely lost. Let this mysterious mummy accompany you into sleep, his expression frozen in time, his secrets held tight by ancient embalmers who wrapped him in sheepskin and left him for eternity. Black Sarcophagus of Alexandria, what was really inside? In 2018, construction workers in Alexandria, Egypt, discovered something that immediately sparked international attention: a large black granite sarcophagus, sealed and apparently undisturbed since ancient times. At over 8 feet long and weighing about 30 tons, it was the largest sarcophagus ever found in Alexandria. Even more intriguing, it had remained sealed for approximately 2,000 years. The discovery generated enormous public interest and wild speculation. Some suggested it might contain the remains of Alexander the Great, whose tomb's location has been lost for centuries. Others proposed it might hold a curse, like the supposed curse of King Tut's tomb. Social media was full of jokes about not opening it, referencing the recent string of global misfortunes and suggesting that opening an ancient cursed sarcophagus would be tempting fate. Egyptian authorities decided to open it, and when they did, they found 3 skeletons in red-brown sewage water. The sarcophagus had not remained perfectly sealed. Water had seeped in over the centuries, creating a kind of mummy soup. The remains were those of 3 individuals, likely military men based on analysis of their bones, which showed signs of injuries consistent with combat. The reality was decidedly unglamorous compared to the speculation. These were not pharaohs or famous historical figures, but probably soldiers or relatively high-status individuals who could afford a nice sarcophagus but were otherwise unremarkable. DNA analysis and further study confirmed they were probably from the Ptolemaic period, but their identities remain unknown. The liquid inside sparked its own bizarre story. Some people claimed they wanted to drink it, believing it might have magical or health properties. Egyptian authorities had to officially state that no, people could not drink the ancient mummy water. The liquid was simply groundwater contaminated with sewage and decomposition products, thoroughly unmagical and decidedly unhealthy. The black sarcophagus story illustrates how modern technology and social media have changed our relationship with archaeology. What might once have been a relatively minor discovery, an intact Ptolemaic sarcophagus, interesting but not extraordinary, became a global phenomenon, partly because of timing, partly because of its mysterious appearance, and partly because the internet loves a good mystery and good memes. It also highlights an important truth about archaeology. Most discoveries, even exciting ones, turn out to be relatively mundane. For every spectacular find like Tutankhamun's tomb, there are thousands of graves containing ordinary people, their lives now anonymous, their stories reduced to bone analysis and artifact catalogs. Still, there's something poignant about those 3 soldiers in their black granite box. They were placed there by people who cared about them, in a sarcophagus expensive enough to suggest they mattered to someone. They've lain in darkness for 2 millennia, and when finally discovered, they became briefly famous, not for who they were but simply for being mysterious. Let these unknown soldiers rest in your thoughts as you drift toward sleep. Their long wait in darkness finally ended, their story both revealed and forever incomplete. Curse of King Tut's Tomb, a deadly legend. When Howard Carter opened the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922, he made the archaeological discovery of the century. The tomb, though small, was packed with treasures, golden shrines, jewelry, furniture, chariots, and the famous golden death mask. But within months, members of the expedition began dying under mysterious circumstances, spawning one of history's most famous supernatural legends, the Curse of the Pharaohs. Lord Carnarvon, who funded Carter's excavation, died just months after the tomb was opened, reportedly from an infected mosquito bite that led to blood poisoning and pneumonia. At the moment of his death, according to legend, all the lights in Cairo went out, and back in England, his dog howled and dropped dead. Other deaths followed. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, who x-rayed the mummy, died shortly after. Richard Bethel, Carter's secretary, was found dead in his bed under mysterious circumstances. Bethel's father then committed suicide by jumping from a building. George J. Gould, a visitor to the tomb, developed a fever and died. Several other people associated with the excavation died within a few years. Newspapers seized on the story, writing breathless accounts of an ancient curse protecting the pharaoh's resting place. The narrative was irresistible, arrogant Westerners disturbing sacred ground, punished by mystical forces. Some claimed that inscriptions warning of death for tomb disturbers had been found, though no such inscriptions actually existed. The reality is far less supernatural. Of the 58 people present when the tomb was opened, only 8 died within a dozen years, hardly an unusual mortality rate. Howard Carter himself, who spent the most time in the tomb and handled the mummy directly, lived until 1939, dying at age 64 of entirely natural causes. Lord Carnarvon's death, while tragic, was entirely explainable. He was in poor health, having never fully recovered from a serious car accident years earlier. Egypt's climate didn't suit him, and medical care in the 1920s was primitive by modern standards. A simple infection that would be easily treatable today proved fatal. The other deaths were similarly explicable. Some people died of old age. Others died of conditions they already had. Some deaths weren't even connected to the tomb but were linked by journalists looking for a good story. The mysterious circumstances often turned out to be mundane when examined closely. Why did the curse legend persist? Partly because it makes a good story. Partly because people in the 1920s were fascinated by Egypt and the exotic Orient. Partly because the deaths, while not statistically unusual, did create an eerie coincidence that was easy to pattern match into a narrative of supernatural revenge. There's also a cultural element. The idea that disturbing the dead brings bad luck exists in many societies. The ancient Egyptians themselves believed in the power of curses and magic. So the curse narrative resonated with both Western superstitions and Egyptian cultural beliefs. Interestingly, the curse story may have served a useful purpose. It drew attention away from the ethical questions about whether Western archaeologists should be excavating Egyptian tombs and taking artifacts to European museums. Instead of focusing on colonial exploitation, people focused on supernatural punishment. The curse of King Tut's tomb remains one of archaeology's most persistent legends, refusing to die even as rational explanations have thoroughly debunked it. Perhaps that's because we want there to be mysteries, want there to be consequences for disturbing the dead, want the ancient world to retain some power over the modern. Let this story guide you into sleep now, not as a curse but as a reminder that sometimes the stories we tell are more powerful than the truth they obscure. Maine Penny, the Viking artifact that shouldn't exist. In 1957, an amateur archaeologist digging at an indigenous site in Maine made a puzzling discovery: a small silver coin, clearly of Norse origin, dated to the reign of Olaf Kyrre, King of Norway from 1067 to 1093. This Norwegian penny, found thousands of miles from Scandinavia in a Native American archaeological site, has sparked decades of debate about Viking exploration of North America. We know Vikings reached North America around 1000 CE. The settlement at Lance Auxiliary Meadows in Newfoundland provides definitive proof. Viking sagas describe voyages to a place called Vinland, somewhere on the North American coast. But Newfoundland is far from Maine. The Maine penny suggests Viking contact extended much farther south than previously thought. Or does it? This is where the mystery deepens. The coin is genuine. Tests have confirmed it's truly a Norwegian penny from the 11th century. But how it got to Maine is far less certain. One theory is that Vikings actually traveled to Maine, either for trade or exploration, and the coin was lost or traded there. This would be exciting evidence for extended Viking presence in North America. However, no other Viking artifacts have been found in Maine despite extensive searching. No Norse-style buildings, no characteristic tools or weapons, no other coins. Just this one penny. A more likely explanation involves trade networks. Indigenous peoples in North America had extensive trading relationships spanning vast distances. Items could travel hundreds or even thousands of miles through a chain of trading exchanges. The penny might have originated at Lance Auxiliary Meadows, been traded to a native group, and then traveled southward through indigenous trade networks over years or decades until it ended up in Maine. There's also a skeptical theory: the coin might be a modern plant or hoax. The amateur archaeologist who found it could have, deliberately or accidentally, introduced it to the site. However, the find's documentation seems legitimate, and there's no clear evidence of fraud. Another possibility is that the penny was acquired by a collector in more recent centuries and then lost at the site, having nothing to do with either Vikings or ancient indigenous peoples. Old coins circulate in unexpected ways, and a Norwegian penny from the 11th century might have been in a collector's pocket in the 1800s, dropped at the site, and then discovered decades later. The Maine penny is currently housed at the Maine State Museum. It remains an anomaly, a genuine Viking Age artifact found far from any confirmed Viking site, its presence explained by theories but not proven by evidence. It tantalizes us with the possibility of wider Viking exploration but refuses to provide the definitive answers we seek. In archaeology, single artifacts can be misleading. Without context, without additional finds, without supporting evidence, it's difficult to draw firm conclusions. The Maine Penny might represent an important clue to Viking exploration, or it might be a red herring, an accidental misplacement that tells us more about trading networks or modern contamination than about Norse voyages. Let this small silver coin rest in your thoughts as you drift toward sleep, a penny that traveled incredible distances, through hands we can't identify, arriving at a place it shouldn't be, raising questions that may never be fully answered. Like so many mysteries, it sits in a museum case, genuine but perplexing, holding its secrets close. As this segment draws to a close, let all these mysteries wash over you: ancient maps and lost libraries, sealed tombs and screaming mummies, cursed excavations and misplaced coins. Let them drift through your mind like fragments of dreams, questions without answers, stories without endings. Rest now, peacefully, as these ancient enigmas keep their eternal watch over the sleeping world. Sleep well. Ica Stones, carvings that challenge history. In the 1960s, a Peruvian physician named Dr. Javier Cabrera began collecting unusual stones from the Ica region of Peru. These stones, ranging from pebble-sized to several feet across, were covered with intricate engravings depicting scenes that seemed impossible: humans riding dinosaurs, performing advanced surgery with modern-looking instruments, studying the stars through telescopes, and examining maps of continents that supposedly weren't discovered yet. Dr. Cabrera eventually amassed a collection of over 15,000 of these stones, which he displayed in his museum. He believed they were genuine artifacts from an ancient, advanced civilization that coexisted with dinosaurs, a civilization whose knowledge had been lost to time. The stones are made of andesite, a hard volcanic rock. The carvings show remarkable detail and consistency in style. Some depict recognizable dinosaur species like Triceratops and Stegosaurus alongside human figures. Others show what appear to be complex medical procedures, including heart transplants and brain surgery. Still others depict celestial observations and advanced technology. If genuine, the Ica stones would rewrite everything we know about human history and the timeline of life on Earth. They would require dinosaurs and humans to have coexisted, despite the fact that dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years before humans evolved. They would suggest an advanced civilization existed in South America thousands of years before any known civilization developed writing or complex technology. The problem is that virtually all mainstream archaeologists and geologists consider the stones to be modern forgeries. The evidence against their authenticity is substantial. In the 1970s, several local farmers admitted to carving the stones themselves and selling them to tourists and collectors. They described their techniques: finding plain river stones, carving them with modern tools, and aging them artificially with fire and shoe polish. The BBC filmed one of these farmers, Bosilio Ushuya, creating an Ica stone using simple tools. He could produce a convincing stone in a few hours. He and other local artisans had recognized a profitable market and simply gave people what they wanted to buy. Dr. Cabrera, when confronted with this evidence, insisted that the farmers were lying to avoid prosecution under Peruvian antiquities laws, which made selling genuine artifacts illegal. He argued that some stones, at least, were genuine ancient artifacts, even if others were modern forgeries mixed into the collection. However, no Ica stones have ever been found in controlled archaeological excavations. All have been purchased from local residents or found on the surface with no archaeological context. No other evidence of this supposed advanced ancient civilization exists. No buildings, no tools, no other artifacts. Just these stones, all of which can be explained as modern creations. The dating of the stones has also proven problematic. While the andesite itself is ancient, the carvings on it could be from any period. Some supporters have pointed to patina, a surface coating that develops over time, as evidence of age, but patina can form quickly under the right conditions and can be faked. The Ica stones represent a particular type of mystery, one that appeals to our desire for hidden history and lost knowledge, but that closer examination reveals to be a hoax. They remind us to be skeptical, to ask for evidence, to understand that wanting something to be true doesn't make it true. Yet they persist in popular imagination because the idea of an ancient advanced civilization is so compelling. Let these carved stones drift through your thoughts as you relax, images of impossible things etched in volcanic rock, stories too fantastic to be true, mysteries that aren't really mysteries at all but rather reflections of human creativity and our eternal fascination with the unknown. Rest peacefully now. Hellenikon Pyramid, Greece's pre-Egyptian pyramid. When we think of pyramids, we usually picture Egypt, or perhaps Mexico and Central America. But Greece has pyramids too, small, often overlooked structures that raise intriguing questions about their age and purpose. The most famous is the Pyramid of Hellenikon, located in the Argolid Plain in southern Greece. The Hellenikon Pyramid is modest in size, standing only about 23 feet tall today, though it may originally have been taller. It's made of limestone blocks fitted together in a roughly pyramidal shape. Inside is a small chamber, and the entrance is on one side rather than at the top or bottom. For many years, historians assumed these Greek pyramids were relatively recent, probably built during the classical or Hellenistic periods around 400 to 300 BCE. Ancient Greek writers like Pausanias mention them, describing them as tombs or monuments from various periods. Most scholars believed they served as tomb markers, watchtowers, or boundary markers. Then, in the 1990s, thermoluminescence dating was performed on the mortar between the stones. The results were startling. They suggested the pyramid might date to approximately 2720 BCE, making it older than the oldest Egyptian pyramids and potentially one of the earliest pyramid structures in the world. If accurate, this dating would revolutionize our understanding of pyramid construction and cultural diffusion. It would mean that the pyramid form either developed independently in multiple locations, or that knowledge of pyramid building spread earlier and more widely than previously thought. However, these early dates remain highly controversial. Many archaeologists question the reliability of the thermoluminescence dating in this case, noting that the samples might have been contaminated or that the dating might have measured when the stones were last heated rather than when the structure was built. More conventional archaeological evidence suggests a later date. The construction techniques are consistent with Greek building methods from the classical period. The stones aren't as precisely fitted as those in Egyptian pyramids, and the overall design is simpler. Ancient Greek texts that mention the pyramids seem to describe them as already ancient but not impossibly so. The purpose of the structure is also debated. The most common theory is that it served as a polyandrion, a communal tomb for soldiers who died in battle. Ancient sources describe such monuments, and the Hellenikon Pyramid's location near an ancient battlefield supports this interpretation. Others suggest it might have been a landmark or territorial marker, a watchtower, or even an astronomical observatory. The small chamber inside could have served various functions depending on the structure's true purpose. What's particularly interesting is that several similar pyramid-shaped structures exist in Greece, suggesting this architectural form had some significance in Greek culture, even if we're not entirely certain what that significance was. The Hellenikon Pyramid sits in a quiet field, largely ignored by tourists who flock to Greece's more famous ancient sites. It's modest, weathered, its original form eroded by time. Whether it dates to 2700 BCE or 400 BCE, it represents a mystery, a structure whose age and purpose remain uncertain, whose stones hold secrets they are reluctant to reveal. Let this humble pyramid accompany you into sleep, ancient blocks of limestone, carefully placed by hands whose motivations we can only guess, standing through millennia in the Greek countryside, patient and enigmatic. Phaistos Disc, Crete's undeciphered clay puzzle. In 1908, Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernia was excavating the Minoan palace at Phaistos on the island of Crete when he discovered one of archaeology's most enduring mysteries, a circular clay disc about 6 inches in diameter, covered on both sides with stamped symbols arranged in a spiral pattern. The Phaistos disc dates to approximately 1700 BCE, placing it in the Middle Minoan period. It contains 241 tokens comprising 45 distinct signs, each apparently stamped into the soft clay using individual seals or punches before the disc was fired. This makes it one of the earliest known examples of movable type printing, predating Gutenberg by over 3,000 years. The symbols are pictographic, depicting recognizable objects, human figures, animals, plants, tools, and geometric shapes. There's a man walking, a woman's head, a bird in flight, a fish, a ship, a plant, and many others. They're arranged in groups separated by lines, spiraling from the edge of the disc toward the center. Despite over a century of study by linguists, archaeologists, and cryptographers, the Phaistos disc remains undeciphered. We don't know what language it represents, what it says, or even what direction it should be read, from center outward or edge inward, clockwise or counterclockwise. The main obstacle is the lack of context. This is the only object of its kind ever found. Unlike Linear A or Linear B, other Minoan scripts for which we have multiple examples that can be compared and analyzed, the Phaistos disc stands alone. Without other texts in the same script to compare it to, and without a bilingual inscription that might provide a key, decipherment is extraordinarily difficult. Many theories about its content exist. Some scholars believe it's a religious text, perhaps a hymn or prayer. Others suggest it might be a calendar, a legal document, a story, or even a game board. Some have proposed it's a mathematical or astronomical text. The truth is, without decipherment, we simply can't know. The disc's authenticity has occasionally been questioned. Its unique nature and the fact that it's never been found in a controlled modern excavation, it was discovered in the early 20th century when archaeological methods were less rigorous, have led some skeptics to suggest it might be a forgery. However, most experts accept it as genuine. The clay and craftsmanship are consistent with other Minoan artifacts, and there's no clear motive for forgery. One intriguing aspect is the use of individual stamps to create the symbols. This suggests whoever made the disc had a set of seals, essentially movable type, which could be reused. This implies that other documents might have been created using the same system, though none have been found. Perhaps they were made on perishable materials like leather or papyrus and didn't survive. The Phaistos disc has inspired countless attempted translations, many of them wildly speculative. Amateur cryptographers have claimed to decode it, proposing readings in everything from an early form of Greek to completely invented languages. None of these translations have gained acceptance among serious scholars, as they typically rely on questionable assumptions or cherry-picked interpretations. What makes a script undecipherable? Several factors. A short text provides limited data. 241 symbols simply isn't much to work with. An unknown language is nearly impossible to decode without a reference point. And a unique writing system with no other examples means no opportunities for comparison or pattern recognition across multiple texts. The disc sits now in the Heraklion Archaeological Museum in Crete, its symbols still silent after 3,700 years. Scholars occasionally propose new theories, apply new analytical techniques, but the disc keeps its secrets. Perhaps future discoveries, another text in the same script, or new analytical methods will finally unlock its meaning. Or perhaps it will remain forever mysterious, a voice from the past speaking in a language we can no longer understand. Let the spiral of symbols on this ancient disc accompany you into sleep, turning slowly in your mind like a wheel, each symbol a locked door, each door hiding meaning we cannot grasp, beautiful and frustrating and eternally mysterious. Rohonc script, the forgotten language of Easter Island. Easter Island, one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth, is famous for its massive stone moai statues. But the island holds another mystery, a unique writing system called Rohonc, which no one alive can read. Rohonc consists of glyphs carved into wooden tablets. The script is unusual. It's written in reverse boustrophedon, meaning alternate lines are inverted. You read one line left to right, then turn the tablet 180 degrees and read the next line, which now appears upside down. Back and forth, line by line, flipping the tablet with each new line. The glyphs themselves are small, precise carvings depicting humans, animals, plants, geometric shapes, and abstract symbols. Some resemble objects found on Easter Island, birds, fish, plants native to the region. Others are more enigmatic, their meaning unclear. When Europeans first encountered Easter Island in 1722, they made no mention of a writing system. It wasn't until the 1860s that Rohonc tablets were first noted by outsiders. By that time, Easter Island's indigenous population had been devastated by slave raids, diseases, and cultural disruption. The knowledge of how to read Rohonc had largely disappeared. In 1864, a French missionary named Eugene Iraud became the first European to describe the tablets, noting that every house seemed to have them and that the islanders venerated them. However, as Christianity spread on the island, many tablets were destroyed as pagan idols. By the 1870s, when scholars became interested in studying them, only about 24 tablets survived. Attempts to find someone who could read the script proved futile. A few elderly islanders claimed some knowledge, but their explanations were inconsistent and seemed to involve reciting memorized chants while looking at the tablets rather than actually reading them. It's possible that by this time, the script had already become a ritualized memory aid rather than a true writing system that could encode any information. What did the tablets say? We can only speculate. They might have contained genealogies, religious chants, astronomical observations, or historical records. Some researchers believe they encoded a form of Polynesian oral tradition in written form. Others suggest they might have been mnemonic devices, visual prompts for trained chanters who knew the stories by heart. One of the few extensive attempts at reading came from an islander named Metoro Taueu in the 1870s. He provided interpretations for hundreds of glyphs, but his readings were often contradictory and didn't follow consistent rules. Modern analysis suggests he was probably improvising, providing plausible-sounding interpretations rather than actual translations. Decipherment attempts have continued for over a century. Some patterns have been identified, certain glyphs appear together frequently, suggesting they might represent common phrases or concepts. Statistical analysis has revealed some structure to the script. But without a bilingual text or a clear understanding of the underlying language's grammar, full decipherment remains elusive. Some scholars question whether Rohonc is even a true writing system. It might be proto-writing, a system of symbols that convey ideas but don't represent specific words or sounds in a spoken language. This would make it similar to ancient pictographic systems that predated full writing. The mystery deepens with questions about the script's origins. Did Easter Islanders independently invent writing, making them one of the few cultures to do so without outside influence? Or did they get the idea from contact with Europeans who brought written materials to the island? Some researchers note that the first mention of the tablets comes shortly after Spanish visitors had the islanders sign a treaty in 1770, potentially inspiring them to create their own form of writing. The surviving Rohonc tablets are scattered in museums around the world. They sit behind glass, their glyphs precise and beautiful, encoding knowledge that died with the last people who could read them. The destruction of Easter Island's culture, through disease, slavery, and colonization, silenced these wooden voices, and now they cannot speak again. Let these carved tablets drift through your thoughts as you relax deeper into sleep, lines of symbols, small figures dancing across wood, stories we can no longer hear, songs we can no longer sing, a written language that has become purely visual art, beautiful but mute. Shugborough Inscription, the unsolved code in stone. In the grounds of Shugborough Estate in Staffordshire, England, stands an 18th-century monument featuring a marble relief of Nicholas Poussin's painting The Shepherds of Arcadia. Below this relief is carved a sequence of letters that has puzzled cryptographers and historians for over 250 years. OUOSVAVVDM. The monument was created sometime between 1748 and 1763, probably commissioned by George Anson or his brother Thomas. But what do these letters mean? Despite centuries of attempts, no one has conclusively decoded them. The mystery has attracted attention from serious historians, amateur codebreakers, and conspiracy theorists alike. Theories range from the plausible to the wildly speculative. Some believe it's a dedication or memorial inscription. Others think it might be a love message or a religious text. Still others propose connections to secret societies, hidden treasures, or esoteric knowledge. One popular theory suggests the letters are an acronym for a Latin phrase, possibly a biblical quotation or classical reference. The D and M at the bottom might stand for dis manibus, a common Latin phrase meaning to the shades or to the spirits of the dead, often found on Roman tombs. If so, the inscription might be a memorial. Working backward from this assumption, some have proposed optimi uxoris optimi sororis viduis amentissimus vovit virtutibus, best of wives, best of sisters, a most devoted widower dedicates this to your virtues. This would make the monument a memorial to Thomas Anson's wife, who died around the time it was constructed. However, this theory has problems. The Latin doesn't quite fit, requiring some grammatical liberties. And there's no clear evidence that this is the correct interpretation. It's essentially working backward from a conclusion to find letters that might fit. Others have connected the inscription to the Holy Grail legend or to the Priory of Sion, a supposed secret society popularized by books like the Da Vinci Code. These theories note that Poussin's painting The Shepherds of Arcadia has been linked to various conspiracy theories about hidden knowledge and religious mysteries. However, these connections are speculative and lack historical support. Some cryptographers have treated it as a cipher, attempting various substitution methods, transposition techniques, and other code-breaking approaches. So far, none have produced a convincing result that makes sense in the historical context. There's also the possibility that the inscription is simply a private joke or reference meaningful only to the Anson family and their immediate circle. It might encode something trivial, an inside joke, a personal motto, or a reference to something long forgotten. Not every mystery needs to have a profound solution. Or perhaps it's deliberately meaningless, created specifically to puzzle people. The 18th century saw a fashion for follies, grottos, and mysterious monuments in aristocratic gardens. Creating an apparently meaningful but actually unsolvable puzzle would fit this tradition perfectly. The Shugborough inscription remains unsolved. The monument stands in the gardens, weathered by centuries of rain and wind, its letters still clear, still mysterious. Visitors come to see it, to photograph it, to propose their own theories. The code, if it is a code, remains unbroken. Let these enigmatic letters accompany you into sleep, OUOSVAVVDM, repeating like a mantra, a puzzle carved in stone, a question with no answer, or perhaps with an answer so simple we've overlooked it for centuries. Rest peacefully with this mystery. Rohonc Codex, the book no one can read. In the library of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences sits a peculiar book, 448 pages of mysterious text in an unknown script, accompanied by strange illustrations. This is the Rohonc Codex, named after the town where it was supposedly found, and it represents one of the most puzzling manuscripts in existence. The Codex appears to be a religious text of some kind. Its illustrations show scenes that seem Christian, crucifixions, religious figures, possibly saints or biblical characters. Other images show what might be Muslim or pagan religious scenes, military conflicts, and various symbols. The overall impression is of a religious or historical narrative, but exactly what story it tells remains unknown. The script itself is unlike any known writing system. It's written from right to left, which suggests a Middle Eastern origin, but the characters don't match Arabic, Hebrew, or any other known alphabet from that region. The text contains approximately 10 to 12 distinct symbols that appear repeatedly, suggesting it might be an alphabet rather than a pictographic system, but attempts to decode it as such have failed. The Codex's origins are mysterious. It appeared in the collection of Count Gustav Bathiany in the early 19th century, but how he acquired it is unknown. It was eventually donated to the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, where scholars have puzzled over it ever since. Is it genuine? This question has dominated discussion of the Rohonc Codex. Many scholars believe it's a 19th century hoax, created either as an elaborate fraud or as an artistic project. The illustrations, while strange, don't seem inconsistent with 19th century artistic capabilities. The paper and binding, when examined, don't definitively prove great age. Those who believe it's genuine point to certain characteristics that seem difficult to fake. The consistency of the script across hundreds of pages would require enormous dedication from a forger. Statistical analysis of the text shows patterns consistent with natural language. Certain symbols appear with frequencies similar to letters in real languages. Combinations follow patterns that suggest grammar and structure. However, skeptics note that a clever forger could create such patterns deliberately. And the fact that no one has successfully decoded the text despite over a century of attempts suggests either extraordinary encryption or pure gibberish. Several decipherment attempts have claimed success over the years. Some have proposed it's written in an invented script representing Hungarian, Romanian, or various other languages. Others suggest it might be a cipher. One theory proposes it's written in an extinct language. None of these theories have gained wide acceptance, as they typically require numerous assumptions and produce translations that seem historically implausible. What's particularly frustrating is that if the Codex is genuine, it should be decodable. Real languages and real writing systems have patterns and structures that can be analyzed, compared, and eventually understood. The fact that the Rohonc Codex has resisted all attempts at decipherment for over 150 years strongly suggests it's either in a completely unknown language using an entirely unique script, extremely unlikely, or it's an elaborate hoax. Carbon dating of the paper has produced dates ranging from the 1530s to the 1770s, which, if accurate, would make it genuinely old but doesn't prove the text is meaningful. Blank old paper can be acquired and written on later, a technique known to forgers. The Rohonc Codex sits in its library, unopened for years at a time, its pages brittle, its illustrations faded, its text stubbornly refusing to yield its secrets, if it has any secrets to yield. It might be a genuine medieval or early modern manuscript in a lost language, or it might be an elaborate 19th century hoax. Without definitive proof either way, it remains in that uncertain space where mystery and skepticism coexist. Let this mysterious book rest in your thoughts as you drift toward sleep, pages filled with unknown characters, illustrations of scenes we cannot fully interpret, a voice either speaking across centuries or simply pretending to speak, silently mysterious either way. Devil's Bible, Codex Gigas, a manuscript said to be cursed. In the National Library of Sweden sits the largest medieval manuscript in the world. The Codex Gigas, or Giant Book, measures approximately 36 inches tall, 20 inches wide, and weighs 165 pounds. It requires at least 2 people to lift it. But it's not just the book size that has earned it fame. It's also called the Devil's Bible because of a large illustration of the devil on one of its pages and a legend about its creation. The manuscript was created in the early 13th century, probably around 1230, in the Benedictine monastery of Podlasis in Bohemia, modern-day Czech Republic. It contains a complete Latin Bible, historical texts, medical formulas, a calendar, and various other materials. The writing is remarkably uniform throughout, suggesting a single scribe created the entire manuscript. According to legend, the book was written by a monk who had broken his monastic vows and was sentenced to be walled up alive. To avoid this fate, he promised to create in a single night a book that would glorify the monastery forever, containing all human knowledge. As midnight approached and he realized he couldn't finish the task alone, he prayed to the devil for help. The devil agreed, completing the manuscript in exchange for the monk's soul. In gratitude or fear, the monk included the portrait of his dark benefactor. The reality, while less dramatic, is no less impressive. Analysis of the manuscript suggests it would have taken approximately 5 years of continuous writing to complete, an extraordinary feat of dedication. The uniformity of the script indicates the scribe maintained remarkable consistency throughout this period. The vellum alone required the skins of approximately 160 animals, representing a substantial investment. The devil illustration that gives the book its nickname is indeed striking. It shows a large green-tinged figure with red claws, horns, and a split tongue, contained within an architectural frame. Directly opposite this page is a depiction of the heavenly city, creating a visual contrast between damnation and salvation. The manuscript has had a tumultuous history. It passed through various monasteries and collections, was looted during the 30 Years' War by Swedish troops in 1648 and taken to Stockholm. Over the centuries, it gained a reputation for being cursed. People who owned it supposedly suffered misfortunes, and buildings that housed it experienced fires and disasters. Are these stories true? Historical analysis suggests the curse is largely a combination of confirmation bias and normal historical events. Medieval manuscripts often changed hands during wars and political upheavals. Buildings caught fire frequently in an era before modern fire prevention. The fact that the Codex Gigas survived these events while other manuscripts didn't is actually evidence against a curse rather than for one. In 2007, the manuscript was loaned to the Czech Republic for an exhibition, marking its first return to its homeland in 359 years. It required special transport and handling due to its size and fragility. The exhibition was enormously popular, with people waiting hours to see the legendary Devil's Bible. Today, the Codex Gigas is fully digitized and available online, allowing anyone to examine its pages without traveling to Sweden or risking the supposed curse. Viewed on a screen, it's still impressive. The precision of the calligraphy, the detail of the illustrations, the sheer ambition of creating such a massive book with medieval tools and materials. The manuscript represents human dedication and skill, the kind of focused work that seems almost superhuman in its perfection, which perhaps explains why people prefer to attribute it to supernatural intervention rather than to patient, skilled labor sustained over years. Let this giant book rest in your thoughts as you drift deeper into sleep, its pages turned by careful hands, its words copied letter by letter, its creation a testament to human perseverance, not demonic intervention, peaceful in its patient creation. Voynich Manuscript, the most mysterious book ever written. Of all the world's undeciphered texts, none is more famous or more frustrating than the Voynich Manuscript. This 15th century book, made of vellum and containing approximately 240 pages, is written entirely in an unknown script and illustrated with bizarre drawings that seem to depict plants that don't exist, astronomical diagrams that make no sense, and naked women bathing in strange interconnected pools. The manuscript is named after Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who acquired it in 1912. Its earlier history is murky, but it apparently passed through the hands of various collectors and scholars in Central Europe. A letter found with the manuscript claimed it had once belonged to Emperor Rudolf II of Bohemia in the late 16th century, though this hasn't been definitively proven. Carbon dating of the vellum places its creation between 1404 and 1438, making it genuinely medieval. The text is written in an elegant, flowing script that looks like writing should. It has the visual appearance of a real language. The symbols are consistently formed, arranged in apparent words and sentences, with clear divisions between sections. The manuscript is divided into several sections based on the illustrations. The botanical section shows drawings of plants, each accompanied by text that might be descriptions or medicinal uses, but the plants don't correspond to any known species. They have features borrowed from various real plants but combined in impossible ways. The astronomical section contains circular diagrams with what might be zodiac symbols and celestial charts, but their meanings are unclear. The biological section shows those strange illustrations of naked women in pools connected by tubes and pipes, which some interpret as representing the circulatory or reproductive systems, though they don't correspond to actual anatomy. Then there's the pharmaceutical section with drawings of what might be jars or containers, and the recipe section filled entirely with text and no illustrations. What recipes? For what purpose? The text remains silent to our inquiries. Countless attempts at decipherment have been made. Professional cryptographers, linguists, and amateur enthusiasts have applied every code-breaking technique known. Some have claimed success, proposing that the manuscript is written in abbreviated Latin, or coded Hebrew, or an invented language, or even an early form of Ukrainian. None of these decipherments have convinced the broader scholarly community. The text shows statistical properties consistent with natural language. Certain symbols appear more frequently than others, following patterns similar to letter frequencies in real languages. This suggests it's not random gibberish. However, it also has some unusual properties. There's less variation than in most languages, and certain patterns repeat in ways that seem odd for natural text. This has led to a persistent theory. The Voynich manuscript might be an elaborate hoax, created to deceive collectors into thinking it contained valuable secret knowledge. In the medieval and Renaissance periods, there was a market for mysterious ancient texts supposedly containing alchemical secrets or lost wisdom. A skilled forger could create a convincing-looking manuscript and sell it for a high price. If it's a hoax, it's an extraordinarily dedicated one. Creating hundreds of pages of consistent fake language with proper linguistic-looking structure would require considerable effort and sophistication. And carbon dating confirms the vellum is genuinely medieval, so if it's a hoax, it's a medieval hoax, not a modern one. Recent AI and machine learning approaches have been applied to the manuscript, with algorithms claiming to detect patterns suggesting it's written in encoded Hebrew or abbreviated Latin. However, these computer-generated translations produce text that's often nonsensical or historically implausible, suggesting the algorithms are finding patterns that aren't really there. The Voynich manuscript sits now in Yale University's Binek Rare Book Library, fully digitized and available for anyone to study. Thousands of people have examined it, applied various theories, proposed solutions. The manuscript absorbs all interpretations and reveals nothing definite, maintaining its mystery with frustrating perfection. Perhaps it's a cipher so complex we haven't cracked it yet. Perhaps it's a constructed language created by one brilliant medieval mind. Perhaps it's an elaborate joke or forgery. Or perhaps, and this is the most tantalizing possibility, It's written in a real language that's since gone extinct, encoding knowledge we've lost, speaking to us across 6 centuries in words we can no longer understand. Let this mysterious book accompany you now into sleep, its pages filled with flowing script and impossible plants, naked figures in strange pools, astronomical charts mapping unknown heavens, all of it beautiful and maddening and eternally silent. Rest peacefully with its mystery, letting unanswered questions fade into dreams. Moving stones of Death Valley, the rocks that move on their own. In the remote racetrack playa in Death Valley, California, there exists a phenomenon that puzzled scientists for decades. Large rocks, some weighing hundreds of pounds, somehow move across the flat desert floor, leaving long trails in the dried mud behind them. No one saw them move. No footprints or tire tracks suggested human intervention. The stones simply moved, apparently of their own accord. The trails are unmistakable, long grooves in the playa surface, sometimes stretching for hundreds of feet. The rocks sit at the end of these trails, silent witnesses to their own mysterious journeys. Some trails are straight, others curved, and occasionally 2 rocks have parallel trails suggesting they moved at the same time under similar conditions. The mystery persisted for decades because the movement is so rare. The playa is extremely remote, visited by few people. The conditions necessary for the stones to move apparently occur infrequently. Early researchers could only document the trails and speculate about what caused them. Theories abounded. Some proposed strong winds, but the rocks were too heavy. How could wind move a 600-pound boulder? Others suggested ice sheets forming under the rocks during cold nights, creating slippery surfaces that wind could then push. Some proposed the playa flooded occasionally, making the surface muddy and slippery. A few entertaining but implausible theories involved magnetic fields or even paranormal forces. The mystery was finally solved in 2014 through patient observation and modern technology. Researchers placed GPS units on several rocks and set up cameras and weather stations. In December 2013, the playa flooded slightly, creating a shallow pond a few inches deep. As night temperatures dropped below freezing, ice formed on the water's surface. During the day, the sun warmed the area, breaking the ice into floating panels. When light winds blew, winds of just 10 miles per hour or less, these ice panels pushed against the rocks. The ice provided enough force and the water-saturated mud provided enough lubrication for the rocks to slide slowly across the playa surface, leaving trails behind them. The researchers actually witnessed and recorded the movement. The rocks moved at speeds of 6 to 15 feet per minute, slow enough to be imperceptible unless you were watching carefully, but fast enough to create those long trails over periods of several minutes to hours. The mystery was solved not through dramatic revelation but through patient observation and the right conditions finally occurring while scientists were watching. The solution turned out to be simultaneously simpler and more complex than many theories. Simpler because it involved only ice, water, wind, and mud, no exotic forces required. More complex because it required a precise combination of conditions: flooding, freezing temperatures, ice formation, morning sun to break the ice, and wind at just the right time. This explains why the movement is so rare. The racetrack playa doesn't flood often. Even when it does, temperatures don't always drop below freezing. Even when ice forms, winds might not blow at the right time or from the right direction. Everything has to align perfectly, which might happen only once every few years. The moving stones of Death Valley remind us that mysteries can persist even for phenomena that are ultimately explainable through natural processes. They also remind us of the value of patience in science. Sometimes solving a mystery requires waiting for years until the right conditions occur and can be observed directly. The playa still exists, remote and silent, its surface marked with old trails slowly eroding away. The rocks sit scattered across its expanse, mostly motionless. But occasionally, When conditions are perfect, they move again, creating new trails, continuing their slow dance across the desert floor. The mystery is solved, but the phenomenon remains beautiful and strange. Let these wandering stones accompany you into sleep, slowly sliding across a moonlit desert, leaving trails behind them, patient and mysterious, their secret now revealed but their strange journeys continuing still. Rest peacefully now, as this segment comes to a close. Let all these unsolved codes and undeciphered texts, these mysterious manuscripts and moving stones, drift through your consciousness like fragments of dreams, question marks written in ancient ink, mysteries that may never be fully solved. Sleep well, and let the ancient mysteries keep watch over your peaceful rest.